Good evening, YouTube world. I'm your host, Paul Italia. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. And welcome to episode 74 of the Arm Wrestling Buzz Show. We got the Arm Wrestling Buzz crew in the house. Matt Hollywood Conley coming in from India, sporting those guns. Better have a license for those, bro. And then we got today's special guest, who also is the first woman on the planet to bench 700 pounds, Ashleigh Hoeta from New Zealand, is it?
Yep.
Well, what's up, Ashleigh? How are you today? And when I heard that number, I was just in disbelief. 700 pounds? That is just next level. Wow.
Yeah. To this day, I kind of still can't believe I've really done it either.
So how did that all begin? Like, when did that journey start for you? Have you been doing it obviously for a very long time and all?
So I started powerlifting in 2019, and then the reason why I kind of started to get into it properly was my dad was at a competition and I won, and it made him emotional. And so I promised him that I would take it to the top in New Zealand. But then 4 months later, I suffered a stroke. And so throughout all of the COVID lockdown in New Zealand, I rehabilitated, and then I came out of the lockdown stronger on the side that I had the stroke rather than my right side. And then 13 months later, after my stroke, I became the top female powerlifter in New Zealand. And then a week after that, I actually saw Mate Iwarangi arm wrestling, and I was like, oh, I want to add that in as well with my accolades. And 6 months after doing that, I faced the previous New Zealand Women's Champ for arm wrestling and won. And then bench, I started in November of 2022. And my coach is like, I think we just go for it. I think you've got enough determination and drive to just take over. And a year later, I became the first woman in the world to do that.
That is very, very impressive. And I know
Yeah.
it's rude to ask a woman her age and all, but how old are you?
I'm 28.
28. And what did you play sports back in school, or did you have like any kind of athletic background that helped you, get that tremendous strength?
Yeah, so I did gymnastics for 12 years, and I started representing New Zealand for it when I was 14.
Wow, very impressive. So would you
Yeah.
say like the gymnastics helped a lot with gaining strength and, overall just being strong on bench pressing and also arm wrestling?
100%. I think gymnastics sets you up for any sport. I feel like if I'd gone from gymnastics straight into powerlifting, I probably would be like 10 times stronger. But I still have that muscle memory there from over 10 years ago, it's cool.
I think a couple of the arm wrestlers at the top level had some gymnastics background, and one of them being Gabby. We know she's one of the best on the planet, and I believe she has, I think she actually teaches gymnastics over in Brazil. I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember something like that. So I want to get into Matt. I want you to tell us about this great event that you got coming up October 27th. And we know Ashleigh's a big part of it. So I just want to hear all the details and kind of fill everybody in.
Absolutely. So October 27th in Adelaide, we're going to be having an AWE Grand Prix 2 event, of which Ashleigh is the main event. She will be taking on Australia's #1, Keziah Harrington, in both right arm and left arm in the super match format. But prior to that, we've got an 8-man double elimination tournament with featuring some of the best guys we could find in the Southern Hemisphere. Basically, every single guy in this event is an enormous, giant monster of a human being. And Riekerd Bornman is the winner of the previous Grand Prix event. He's the favorite going into this. He is the current AWE heavyweight champion. The belt is up for grabs. He's put the belt on the line. So whoever wins this tournament will become the new heavyweight champion for AWE. Riekerd is stating very clearly that he doesn't think that he will be losing his belt anytime soon. But we've got a lot of guys that are in the field that have been training very hard and saying that I'm going to be taking that belt home for myself. So we've got guys like Brett Coots, who's training twice a day, and he's been doing that for the past 6 weeks. He's got 17 years of experience, about 100 kilos, 220 pounds. We've got Charles Puri, who Ashleigh may be familiar with. He's from New Zealand as well. He's sort of sitting at that number 2 spot. He's been pushing Matawaringi Hetamoris for the last couple of years, and we feel it's a really great opportunity to be able to give him the spotlight and give him some international exposure as well. We've got Alex McKinnon, who's coming in from New South Wales, who's like 100 kilos. And yeah, everyone in this field has monstrous ability, and it's going to be an absolute war between each guy going in. So each round is first to 2, and it's double elimination. So that'll be happening prior to seeing the match with Ashleigh Hoeta and Keziah Harrington. So we're very much looking forward to it. October 27th. We are going to be doing a post-produced style of release as opposed to doing a live event. So as soon as the event is finished, we're going to be jumping on the editing program and chopping it up, making it nice, fast-paced, and very presentable. We'll have all the commentary and everything on there. So we'll release that for free on the AWE Underground YouTube channel. And for those in North America, it should be Sunday morning. When you get up on Sunday morning, you should be able to see that on the channel. It will take us a few hours to edit it up, but basically as soon as the event finishes, while the after pool is going on and everyone's having some fun there, we'll be sitting on the computer and cutting all this together because we want to get it out as soon as possible.
And guys, Drew24 has just put the link in there. So get over there right now, AWE Underground. It's a free event. Everybody's going to get to enjoy on YouTube. And just like Matt said, they're going to make it look all pretty and, really quick. And we don't got to wait for these crazy setups and all. They're going to edit it all up. And we'll get to see it Sunday morning. So as soon as you wake up on October 27th, you'll get to see the finished product. And I think that's an amazing thing. And that leads me to one of our other questions. Do you think that the major events, the big ones, the big stage and all, instead of doing a live feed, do you think they should go more with an edited production and, before they present it out to the public? What do you think about that, guys?
What you can answer, Ashleigh. I'll jump in after you.
I don't know. I do like the live, but I also do like the sound of that. I feel like for a lot of some arm wrestlers, I'll say, they don't necessarily post their stuff, so you never know what they're kind of up to. So I feel like that would be cool to see how it went down, and actually seeing it instead of being like, yeah, I won, instead of, I think it would be cool. Yeah.
No, that's fair, absolutely. Yeah, well, the reason we've gone with the post-produced product is that we've noticed with the live events that we've seen in the last year or two that they have been really drawn out. They are, running 6-7 hour events, and it's just so incredibly tiring to sit through and try to capture your attention for that length of time. The long setups, the long time between rounds, especially having cards that are so stacked full of people that you have no interest in watching. And by the time they get to the marquee matches, it's been 5 hours and you're losing interest. And it's like, oh man, I just want this to be over with. So for us, it's we didn't want to have any of those elements there. We wanted to make it as entertaining as possible, as consumable as possible, and being able to get the product and just cut out all the fluff, all the stuff that is quite boring to watch. Just watching the guy sitting in the corner for a minute getting his arm rubbed is not something that we sort of need to see. But there is value, obviously, in having a live event where you're seeing the action take place as it happens right in front of you. So you are missing out on that element. But I think that the difference between what we're trying to do is make it as consumable and as entertaining to watch as possible. So we're willing to sacrifice that immediate gain of seeing the result live. It will be as fast as possible that we can put it out, but obviously the longer that the result is out there from the live event, the more that it loses its value. So that's why we'll be trying to push it out basically as soon as we possibly can.
So we got Mr. Peanut says, cash flow, sports gambling doesn't support waiting around to find out what happened. Pro Panja says, hard to control leaks or spoilers post-production. Well, I think like what Matt's doing, I kind of agree with, where, as soon as the event's over, the edit teams already started working on it and all. And, I think within like maybe an hour or two after event, if it's posted up there, I think that kind of could combat the leaks and spoilers post-production. I think it's just such a benefit, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get new arm wrestlers and people that aren't actually arm wrestlers to be fans of this. And I think, from our last couple of episodes, we've been bringing up this problem where it's, they're just so drawn out, and we're losing a lot of interest with, other than purist arm wrestlers. They're just like, what is going on here for 4 or 5 minutes, jostling around, trying to get a grip and all. And it's like in that time, a lot of these non-arm wrestlers are just losing interest and clicking off. So, by coming up with a quick post edit production where it's, goes out within like an hour or two after, I think could kind of help bring in those non-arm wrestlers and just gain more interest and all. But I do definitely understand what you mean, Pro Panja, because, a lot of times people there start posting up what happened and, kind of give away the spoilers and all. So that is one little problem I could see. What do you think? How can we combat that, Matt? Is there any way of, kind of getting around that?
I don't think so. I think for us, it's like, okay, we accept that people are probably going to be doing that. And I think we will be asking, look, if you want to record, if you want to do that sort of thing, just like for our benefit, because we're putting, a lot of money and time and effort into making this event, if you could just hold off until we put our edit up. I know that's not realistic to expect that, but like you said, we're not worried too much because it's just going to be the arm wrestling audience that's going to be very invested in that and wanting to see that within that, immediately knowing what the result is. Whereas the mainstream audience is where we're looking to target and trying to get as much interest into arm wrestling as possible. So those people aren't, looking at a crappy standing off the side arm wrestling video that somebody has uploaded on their Instagram. They're not going to be interested in that. But for us to put out a highly produced product, it has a great production value and storyline, and it looks awesome for the person who's not interested in arm wrestling. That's who we want to see that, and then we're not losing them by somebody else putting a spoiler out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Drew24 says, post a quick edit after and then post a full raw for those who want to that too. So, he's answering to Archdog, who said, yeah, but you will miss possible important things that might not want you to see. So that's what Drew's saying. You could put out the raw as well, which that could be a good idea for sure.
I think it would do more harm than good. I unfortunately, Drew, I don't agree with you. I think they're putting out that product and then people seeing that and deciding that that's what AWE is, and it could end up the same as King of the Table, East versus West, where they go, oh, this is really boring. So, I'd rather have the post-produced product as the go-to than having a raw event.
Tall Paul says, I like the setup shenanigans when Devin and Travis do it. Gets boring with non-trash talkers due to shenanigans in the setup, laughing out loud. Yeah, I mean, certain things, you could keep on there and all, but you guys got to remember, we're not just here for the arm wrestling purists. We're trying to grow the sport. We're trying to get new eyes. That's pretty much the key right there, new eyes. And, just talking with some of my friends and, my girlfriend be one of them, they're not, that true arm wrestler. And that's the first thing that they say. We got to get rid of the whole set up bullshit and how long it takes. And, they don't get it and they don't understand why they can't just grip hands and go, what I mean? And That's the problem that we're trying to figure out. And a good example, and I don't mean to keep harping on this, would be the last King of Table. Matt gave a good example on the last episode when, Camille went against Artem Morzov, and I think it was like a 14-minute round, just trying to get them to go. And that's where we're running into major problems with that. We can't have stuff like that. Ashleigh, did you get to see the last King of Table?
No.
Okay.
No, and I actually missed Mate Iwarangi's match as well, because it was like 4 a.m. over here and I woke up too late. I managed to catch Bowen's though and Mario's. Yeah.
Okay, so that was at the Knuckles Up event. Is that
Oh
the one?
yes, yeah.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And were you impressed with Mario's win against Plowman? Which I think the whole place that was there in live in person, I think all their jaws would just drop. They did not expect that. What an amazing performance by Mario. Were you surprised at that at all, or did you pretty much expect that?
I know that he is a talented arm wrestler. I was reading all of the comments. I think I watched a live, and everyone's like, he's good, but he's not good enough. And so I knew it was going to be a huge upset when he won. And then I think he's just gone and faced. Who was it?
Tokyo Shishiro.
Yes, and seeing that, it's like, what other potential is there for him? I think he's an incredible arm wrestler.
Yeah, for you guys that haven't seen it, it really didn't get too much promotion and all, but Savage Arm Wrestling, he sent me over the link, and I get to watch the raw footage of Mario going against Toshiaki, who is a great arm wrestler from Japan. Dude's a monster, and I wasn't so sure that Mario was gonna get the win the way that he did, but Mario put on a show that day. It wasn't until that they went to the strap in the last round when I think the match was actually over. They just did an extra round, and I think he had some problems then when he was applied the strap. But Mario dominated before that, which I kind of was in shock because Toshiaki was a lot bigger of a guy and all. But Mario, man, he is on another level. His trajectory in the last 2 years has just been skyrocketing and all. And he's a fun guy to watch. He definitely really is. Matt, what was your thoughts? Did you get to see that match?
Yeah, I did. We actually watched it while it was on your show on the Paul Italia, just the casual chat that we had, because we were talking about what we thought the result would be, and then I think I went into a minute rant about how I think Mario would be the heavy favorite, and all of his skills and accolades and stuff like that. And then somebody else goes, the match has already happened. I was like, oh. And then while somebody else was talking, Abhishek and I brought it up on the phone and watched it while we were in the middle of the podcast. So, yeah, he did a tremendous job, and he's onwards and upwards for Mario Tambakis.
100%. So let's get more into the AWE big match that we got coming up with Ashleigh. And just like you said, she's going against the number 1 Australian female, Kezia Harrington. She's tell us a little about her, Matt. I haven't really seen much video on her, so kind of catch us up to date.
Yeah, it's a weird spelling, but the pronunciation is Kezia. But she's yeah, that's right. Yeah, she actually has faced Ashleigh before, and it was at the East versus West qualifier. I know she's looking for revenge for that match because Ashleigh was actually the victor that day. But she's a very good top. I think she's a top roller, and she's tall. She's number 1 in Australia, and she's only quite young still. I think she's 18 or 19 years old, and she's been doing very well in the arm wrestling scene here in Australia. And I think she's only 2 years in, so she's still fairly new and still developing her skills and abilities on the table. But she's out for revenge, and she thinks she has what it takes to take down Ashleigh, but I guess we'll find out on the 27th. Ashleigh, I know you've been training very hard, and how are you feeling heading into the match?
I'm very excited to explore Adelaide. because I was mentally preparing to face, one of the one of the legends in the sport, I've just continued that. In a way, it's like a blessing in disguise because it's small little steps now. I know that obviously one day I will face Sarah, but for now, yeah, just that those small little stepping stones, and I'll make sure that there's room in my suitcase to bring the trophy home.
Well, big words, but there we have the right and the left arm. I know your stronger arm seems to be your left. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Left-handed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense then. So when you went over East versus West, you've gone international. You're 8 months into the sport and you're having international matches straight off the bat. Did you expect to be so successful so quickly?
Left arm, I was hoping for a top 3. Right arm, I didn't really care where I got because my left arm is just very natural. Like I know what I'm doing with it. My right arm is not as strong as my left. And so I actually have to think about what I'm doing before I walk up. But yeah, I was really happy with the left result. Right, we've been working a lot more on just the right arm since then and balancing it out so it's as strong as my left.
Ashleigh, what is your set style? Are you an inside puller? Do you like to go outside? Are you a presser? Where do you like to go?
So I have been top rolling, but I've also found the way that if I am getting beaten in a top roll, it's just going straight into a hook and then pulling it back and down. Like last time I talked to you guys, pretty much had no idea what I was doing. And then something in my brain kind of just clicked. And after watching like more videos, learning a lot more from Mate Warangi, I feel a lot better as an arm wrestler in the early stages. But yeah, my go-to at the moment is top roll. But I'm excited to see what Keziah does at AWE and seeing if I can kind of go around it. Yeah.
Now, she does have a long forearm. Sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to talk over you. She is a tall girl, a long forearm. She does top roll as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out with your setup style and whether or not you can contain what she's doing.
Yeah.
Now, how are you with both arms? Like, which one do you think is going to be an easier match for you? And are you confident on both of them getting the win?
Left, I feel confident. Right, I mean, it's 50-50. But left, I know Keziah is also quite strong on her left. Like, she got 3rd at the East vs West finals. Whether that's her more dominant arm, I have felt her right, and she has kind of stopped me. But yeah, more confident on the left than the right.
Now, give us a percentage. Like, what do you think you're going to do on the left arm? Like, how confident are you? Like, is it 100%? You know, you're coming in to take that trophy. Is it like 50%? Like, where are you at with that?
I'm going to say 100 on the left and 85 on the right.
Wow. Yeah. We're going to have to get Keziah on here, brother. We're going to definitely, you should send her the link over there and see what she thinks of this.
Yeah, well, I can if you want. I can do it now.
Yes,
I'll do it while we're talking.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, that's 100%. I've never heard any athlete say 100%. This is for real. Wow. So let me ask you, how is it transferring over for you for getting on the table? Obviously, you're stronger than all the athletes you're going against. Is it are you able just to overpower everybody for what you've seen so far, or you are relying on technique right now?
Strength is a huge advantage for me. But then when it comes to I think her name's Malin from Sweden, I think. She was just incredible. She was very explosive, and so I knew that like strength can come in handy, but there is a point when you're facing someone like her where it's like, okay, you need the strength and technique at the same time. But majority of the time it is strength for me.
And where are you strong? Like, where are you realizing that, this bench press power is helping you out on a table? Is it side pressure where, like, if you get into any kind of problems, you could just go sideways on everybody, overpowering them? Is that true?
Um, I feel like it's in my wrist a lot. Like I could hold, and if they're trying their hardest, I could just hold my hand in one position. But if it is at a point where we are going back and forth, I can just reach around and then side pressure right down.
Okay. And now, are you like the strongest in your country, and everybody that you go against, like, have you beat them already? And it's just crazy that I'm asking this, that hearing that you're only 8 months into sport is just like, whoa, like, this is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. So yeah, but we don't really have that many women in New Zealand. A few weeks ago, we just ran our first kind of like women's arm wrestling session in my hometown, and it was the most women that I've ever seen in New Zealand ever arm wrestle. I think there are about 8, but we usually only have about 4 women compete at nationals. And that's when Mate Warangi's like, right, like there's not that much competition for you here. Let's go over the ditch and then let's go to this competition. Yeah.
And how do you do against the men? Are you beating a lot of them as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
How does this
fun.
happen, Paul? We keep getting these people that are jumping into the sport and just achieving so much. I'm 5.5 years in. I'm not even top 10 in my own club.
It's got to be over there. It's got to be the water over on your side of the world or something. Because I mean,
Well,
you
I've
guys
got to
are
find where
producing
you're
a lot
drinking
of them.
from. How does that happen? 8 months, you going to international matches. You're doing phenomenally well. You're beating the guys. It's insane. You're setting, and not only are you doing that, you're also setting records in bench press. You're nominated for New Zealand's Woman of the Year. You got so many things going on at once. I feel
Yeah.
very like underperforming here.
We got a comment from Pro Panja League that I want to, highlight over here. And he says, if arm wrestling wants to go mainstream, then the grip situation has to be fixed. Because if arm wrestling wants to be on network, then there's strict timelines and everything has to be done within that slot. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But how do we make that work, as far as with the pay-per-views as well, because you really can't do the edit, if you're going to do the pay-per-view and you kind of want to keep it live. So does there have to be like some sort of like timer, like, we maybe like I know they used to do like 30 seconds over at wall, and then they would go into a set grip, but even that I think was a little too long. So you think maybe if we lowered the timer, maybe making it like 10 seconds for them to get their grip, if they don't get their grip, then maybe go like right to the strap? Like, is that like something that we could, possibly do?
So yeah, I was talking about this with Pavin Dabas, who runs Pro Panja, yesterday. So they work with Sony Sports Network. So their event ran for I think 17 or 18 days straight in on the network here. After the very first episode, the producers went straight to Pavin and they said these setups are taking way too long. Like it's that bit has to go. You've got to change that immediately. So they were like, great, we're just going to get rid of and I think they had a 30-second or a 20-second find your own grip moment. Immediately scrapped it. Every match just starts in ref's grip, and so they had to speed it up. They were allocated 2 hours. They had to get everything done in 2 hours, and it was like when you've got that time pressure, you can't be having athletes wandering away in between slips and fouls and walking off. It's like no. We've got people watching this live. We have to get this done in 2 hours. You can't. You've got to minimize your time exposure as much as possible and make it as entertaining as possible, because the network that you're on is giving you the opportunity to showcase your sport. And if you're showcasing your sport and people are bored, guess what? You're not going to be on that network for very long.
Ashleigh, how do you feel about, speeding up that process? You as an athlete and all, would that be something that you would be okay with? Or, you think that the whole jostling in the setup is a real important part of arm wrestling?
like I've never been in that situation where I've had long arm wrestling matches, so I wouldn't mind if they cut it down. But I understand, like others, and they have their setups, and then their hand positioning's wrong. I mean, I do agree, like cutting it down and then showing like the main parts, the entertainment parts that people want to watch. Because I like my mum, she watched a live, and it was very long, and she was like, I should have come over with you. I got very bored, and I feel like cutting it down, having a certain amount of time. Yeah, I think that would be cool.
I want to
It
give
would bring in a lot more people as well.
I want to give everybody homework in the chat. I think the next event that you watch, you should bring over 2 of your non-arm wrestler friends and take notes. Just hear what they got to say about everything. And, let's just go from there and let's talk about it next, So maybe, I think a good idea would be, try out AWE's event, because October 27th, they're doing the edited and they're going to cut everything down, and have them come over and watch that. And let's hear the feedback from that. And then also let's get them to go to one where they're watching live and, with all the setups and all that. And let's hear what they got to say from that. Because I think that's really important for us. And we kind of like forget about that. We're all concerned about just us purist arm wrestlers who really watches it. And, we got to remember we're trying to get it out there to the masses, so it's not just what we want to see, it's what is the rest of the world want to see. And that's the only time that we're actually going to grow and all. And we got a comment from Henry Nayring, which, guys, he's got a new YouTube channel. He's been doing some great interviews out there. I encourage you guys to go check him out on YouTube. It's the same name on YouTube. So he says, we need her and Gabby, queen of side pressure. Henry, I think we need a little more time for Ashleigh. She's only 8 months in there. Let's not throw her into the lion's den right away. I'm not saying that, she might not be in a match, but I'd like to see maybe another at least 6 months to a year on the table, learn a little more technique and all before she goes up against somebody like Gabby. But she was set right before this match that she had with Keziah. It was supposed to be Sarah Bachman. So they were throwing her in right to the wolves right away. Sarah is definitely one of the top on the planet, and but I mean, when you bench 700 pounds, I mean, you kind of got, you got the power and strength to hang. I'm not sure if pure strength is going to work on these girls, because not only are they very strong, they've got 15 plus years of table experience, with means a lot. How were you feeling going in originally against the match with Sarah Bachman? Like, you said you were 100% confident with the left arm going against Keziah. What was your confidence level percentage-wise going against a Sarah Bachman?
So originally I wasn't going to take it because the date that it was so on Sunday it's going to be a year since my dad died, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, I can't. And Mate Urangi and my mum were like, you know what, like, this is your first really big shot, just do it, like, do it and then cry afterwards. And so it went from not doing it to, right, we're in a prep. I wasn't that confident because I see the years of hard work and dedication that she has put in. So it was a little bit daunting. And then, obviously it didn't work out. But I think give me a year or 18 months and I think I will be feeling a lot more confident.
Hell yeah. And Drew24, he's just posted up Pro Panja League's channel. So I encourage everybody to get over there, subscribe. I mean, they're doing huge things. One of the top promotions in all the world. They're getting views like, 20, 30 million views on their events. And, they're putting significant money into the sport. And they've definitely figured out their market over in India. We're definitely encouraging them to come over to North America next. We would love to see them over here for sure. And then
sorry, Paul. I was going to say it's interesting just listening to the way that they talk here in the headquarters. When we talk about matches or potential things, their immediate thoughts is, well, how can we sell this to a network? And it's like, what is the best possible package that we could get that's going to go out to millions and millions of people, as opposed to, okay, let's put a super match together and we'll find a venue and stuff like that. It's like, no, we want to figure out the best possible things that we could do and sell this to a major TV network. That's their thought process. The first thing that they think of. It's definitely different to talking to promoters around the world that I've spoken to over the last 2 years. Whose thinking is, let's put an event on, and then maybe one day we can look at approaching a network. But it's they're starting right there, and they've already been successful. So it's just a different frame of mind. Very interesting.
Is that the key, is to sell it to a network? Would that work, that same setup in North America?
I think you've got the potential as long as you've got a provable product. So they had packages and they had the ability to put something together. When they pitched the idea, they had, a lot of previous footage and events and stuff like that they could say, look, this is a very professional production that we are looking to run on your network. And so it wasn't like that they could just, they're like, oh yeah, we'll just see how it goes. It's like, no, they had to have proof of concept. They had to have a lot of evidence backing them up. They put everything very professionally together before they went and to them and said, look, this is what we want to do. These networks they don't want to put something together on their network that isn't going to get people to watch, or is the worst case scenario going to get people to turn away from their network. So they're only going to be investing in shows that look very professional and can prove, hey, we have an audience, we have people that are interested in this. This will be a hit for you, and give us the opportunity. So that's the way that they've been thinking. I think in North America, if somebody was doing that sort of thing, it's possible. But I don't see people over there thinking in that way. Maybe if somebody was like, look, let me approach one of the networks with a very professional package. We've got viewership, we've got this, we've got these things built in. They might get the opportunity, and why not? Why not go for it?
I think what kind of discouraged the promoters out here from doing that was they watched WAL do it. WAL was the one that, they got it on the mainstream TV, and they also did it with the reality show of Game of Arms, and they seen how it didn't last. Obviously, COVID came and they kind of just disappeared. Everybody was talking about them making a comeback. There was even a reality show being casted in the background. I got lucky to be part of, but nothing ever formulated from that, what I mean? And I kind of think it just kind of took the air out of North America as far as seeing that the way to go. Now, another thing, an example would be back in the day, the World Wrestling of the Worlds in Petaluma and all, they made it on ESPN and Wide World of Sports, and nothing ever came from that, and they were aired for a couple years, but it wasn't the prime time slots. They were getting like in the middle of the night, and even with the WAL, it was always like off time slots. I think they had like 1 year where they had Game of Arms, where it was like came on right after like one of the big main TV series or whatever, and that was something really big for them. But they never, after that, I've never really seen much of it on TV. Now, is there like the price or something? Is it so expensive to get in those prime time slots that we're finding problems with? And why do you think that WAL wasn't successful with that and kind of just disappeared?
Yeah, I think it is the obviously your network is going to have its prime time, and that they're going to put shows on there that's going to get the most people watching. It's prime for a reason. It's like the most valuable time slot. And there's a difference between, yes, we've got a network TV deal, but it's at 3 a.m. and no one's going to watch, and it doesn't help the sport, and it doesn't help grow your promotion. So Pro Panja was very clever with that, and they really did fight hard, because I think that originally Sony was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it, but it will be like a 1 a.m., a 2 a.m. deal. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. Like, we will prove to you that our product is worthy of prime time, and they got it. They fought very hard for it, and they were on Sunday night. I think it's 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. or 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. But in a really prime position where the majority of people are at home, they're not at work, they're watching TV. They were following in from a cricket match that had ended, and then they were able to just hopefully capture the audience that was already watching the cricket. And the next thing that came on was Pro Panja. So they were very clever with that. And I think that really attributed to their success, because you've already got millions of people watching, and it's like, okay, what's on next? Rather than changing the channel, it's like, oh, well, what's this thing? It's Pro Panja thing, arm wrestling. Okay, let's have a look at it. And then it gave the opportunity for people to see it and then go, oh, I like this. And, maybe they became fans of that. Whereas if you're coming on at 2 a.m, you've got such a smaller audience, and it's like, are those people that are watching that going to be sports fans, or are they just people that can't sleep, or are they night shift workers? It's a completely different realm. So if you're going to get a network TV deal, obviously the value really is about the time slot if you're doing a live production.
So Mr. Peanut says, why did ABC's Wide World of Sports cancel arm wrestling? No cash flow, poor business model that lost money. Canceled by Wide World of Sports, ABC Sports, and its producer, Ron Arridge. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I guess that's what they're saying. It was just poor marketing, and, I guess, the cash flow wasn't there, and it was just kind of eating away at the organization and all that. And same thing with WAL. They kind of faced the same problem. So, I see the model working over in India and all, but I just, WAL was a prime example where, they had the funds, and they were putting out all the money, and they were able to get the reality show on there, and also, the show to matches, but it didn't last. It was like, they weren't making a return on it, or that's what I'm guessing. So it might be a little different market or something like that. Maybe it's the population over in India, or a lot more people are tuning in. Because I remember when you guys were telling us the numbers that are, being seen on the television sets there, it was just insane. So I wonder if they were experiencing the same thing with the WAL.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the WL was airing over in the US, and maybe they were getting a slot that wasn't prime or wasn't prime for sports audiences. And I'm not sure how long they were able to hold on to that position, or maybe they got moved from spot to spot, which tends to happen if a show doesn't do really well in its original time slot. They'll try it in a different spot, see how it goes. But there's probably a lot of unanswered questions that only the people that were inside of that production would be able to answer. We can speculate from the outside of it, but ideally, if you're going to put a sports show on, you want to be on prime time. You want to be able to capture the attention of sports fans. So if you're not meeting that, your product can be phenomenal, and you're investing a lot of money and time and effort, and you're making it look fantastic, but it's on a time slot that doesn't work, and that can be the death of the show. So it just depends on a lot of different factors, but those ones are critical.
The thing that I did like about WAL is I think they went at it the right way, as far as, we keep saying that you got to tell the athlete's story. So by having the reality show run simultaneously with the league, I think that's a great aspect, because, you get to tune in one day, you get to see the super matches and all the great event and it looked like UFC level. WAL really put in the money with the production and really made a great product. And then they had, going along with that, the reality show. So you got to see the athletes, kind of behind the scenes, and learn who they were, and what I mean. So it's like, you go and watch that reality show, now you go and watch the super match series, and you're like, all right, I already know who these athletes are. You identify what character you like, which one you don't like. So they definitely went out the right way. I'm so confused at what happened. Like COVID came, and we kept hearing that they were going to come back right after COVID, and then everybody, with all these rumors going around, everybody heard that there was casting going on behind the scenes, and then nothing ever formulated from it. And it was just like, a great disservice to arm wrestling, because they kind of were like the top production and top stage at that time. And then East versus West came, and East versus West is great, but I think East versus West is more for that pure first arm wrestler. I don't see the same kind of production. I don't see, the reality show going with. I didn't see any of that. And, I kind of don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's the formula where WAL was on that right track in my eyes. I just don't know if the money was making sense for them.
Yeah, I think that one of the key elements in that, you see this, probably a comparable example would be the WCW for wrestling, who Ted Turner got involved in that. He was very passionate about that. Obviously, he had the funds to create the promotion. He started taking the wrestlers from the WWE, and he was outrating them for a significant amount of time. For I don't know, 2 years straight, every episode of theirs that went head to head with the WWE, they were beating them. What happened with their downfall was that Ted Turner started focusing on other projects, and he put some of his trusted people in the same position that he was, instead of overseeing it himself. And I think maybe that's one of the issues with what happened potentially with Steve Kaplan, is that, with COVID and all the rest of it, maybe his attention moved from, okay, I'm really 100% in on this arm wrestling stuff, and I'm putting all this money in, I'm loving it, and that's giving me this great sort of benefit personally from seeing this product come to life. But if he then moves on to something else and starts putting his time and energy and focus into something else, and it's like somebody else takes over, or somebody else is now in that position, and they don't have the same mindset that he does, or the visionary ability that he does, that's when things can fall apart. So I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I can sort of see similarities with that, where the people who are running the organization, they're putting a lot of time and effort and money into it, and then something else takes their interest, and maybe they move away from that promotion dies. So it's potential that could be the reason.
Well, Mr. Peanut, he seems to know a lot about this, and he says, Game of Arms, Steve Kaplan was chairman of board at AMC. Game of Arm costs were $330,000 per episode. Never sold commercials. That's why it failed, I guess. And just me having personal conversations with Steve Kaplan. I used to check in with him every 2 months. We'd have a phone call and all. And I just remember the last conversation I had with him. And he said that if he was going to, come back at this, he would have to do it more than what he was doing before. It was kind of like a hobby that he was doing on the side and all, and it would have to be taken more seriously. And he was talking more about global marketing. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the last conversation I had with him. And I kind of got off the phone with that. And I started getting a little nervous from just certain comments that he said that gave me that idea that this might not be coming back. It was almost like he was second guessing himself with that. And, I know he had a huge production company that he was working with that was going to produce the reality part of it. You know what I mean? And they were going to be separate from WAL, but, they kind of were going to be working co-joined, just like I said, where they were going to spotlight the athletes, and then the athletes would go and compete at WAL. And I don't know what happened. I went through a couple different casting interviews. I flew down to LA. I met with a couple of people, and we would do these interviews. They would video us and everything. And, it would be like, hurry up and wait. We would do a bunch of stuff, and then it would go 6 months where we weren't hearing nothing. And then I'd call them up, are we still going? And everybody'd be like, yeah, things are still in the mix. And then it just got to the end where I stopped calling, and I never heard back from anybody. And I was just kind of confused. And I was like, oh, I guess this is not happening. So that's my story and what I know about with WAL. Maybe one day they will come back. I'm not really sure, but I think, there had to be a problem, $330,000 per episode. And if you're not seeing returns, I mean, you're talking about serious money. And I wonder how much, the difference is over in India, what are they paying to get on these networks, per episode? Do you have any insight on that, or?
Not in terms of the monetary amounts, but I know that they've got investors, which is a difference between one person funding everything, and they are the complete catalyst as to the success of the league. And if they pull their support or they focus on other opportunities, then that's the end of the league, basically. Whereas if you've got, let's say 30 different investors, and all of them are like, hey, what's happening with the thing? I've invested in this. I'm relying on you. You have people pushing you to make sure that what you do actually happens. So I think that's one of the key differences, is that if you're running everything yourself, if you then decide, I don't want to do this anymore, no one is there going, no, you must do this because we want, we've invested our money into it. Whereas if you've got a whole team of people saying, what's happening with it, and constantly sort of on your back as to you better keep your word here because we entrusted you with our funds. That's going to be a big motivating factor to make sure that you deliver on what you promised.
I want to ask you, Ashleigh, when you first got into our sport, obviously it was only like 8 months ago. Have you got to watch Game of Arms, or did you ever take a look at some of the old WAL matches or anything?
So this is the first time I'm hearing of these. I didn't even realize that there were like different kind of organizations until I went to Turkey this year. Yeah, I'm very because bench has been my main thing. It still kind of is. I feel like once I completely drop that and then move to arm wrestling, I'll probably be more into it. But yeah, learning the techniques has been like my main thing. I've only really just been learning like the different kind of comps that there are through Mate Iwarangi, actually. Yeah.
So that's really interesting to me, just, because I started 4 years ago, and anytime when, guys that are in 3-4 years, usually the story that you hear the first time they've seen arm wrestling was either a Game of Arms or they'd see the old WAL events. And now you could see, you being 8 months in, and anybody that's in within the last year, 2 years, you're not hearing that anymore. It's no longer, oh, I watched Game of Arms, I fell in love with this character and that's what made me come into the sport. I remember when I first came in, it was always, oh, Travis Bajan, he was on Game of Arms. He was the man. And that's who brought me into the sport. It kind of switched now. Now, when you hear arm wrestling, everybody goes, oh, Devin Lorette, but you don't hear no more WAL or Game of Arms. And I feel like that kind of sucks in a way, because Game of Arms was just an amazing, amazing show. And it was like the first time we've actually seen, I feel like, big time success. Granted, it only lasted 1 season. They did film a whole second season, but it never actually aired, and I would tell you this, Ashleigh, if you do get some free time, definitely go check out the Game of Arms. I think you really, really would enjoy it. It's really great reality show. Matt, what was your thoughts on that, man? Were you one of those guys that were brought in with Game of Arms and WAL?
The Pulling John documentary is the first thing that I saw arm wrestling related, and I run an MMA forum, and one of the threads there, it's like a documentary thread, and somebody put up, oh, there's this arm wrestling documentary, Pulling John, and I was like, okay, sounds interesting. Watched it, loved the characters. Obviously, Travis is a big feature of that, and John Brasink and Alexi Pavoda. There were the 3 characters that it focused on, and I really enjoyed it, and I was like interested in arm wrestling from that, but I hadn't really pursued it. And it was a few years later that I was at the Arnold Expo, and they had arm wrestling set up there. They were doing a demo. And I had started watching, and I think it's just the algorithm found me in a way, from watching bodybuilding clips and strength sport clips and that sort of thing. It gradually drew me towards the WAL events, and I was like, oh, there's John Brasink. I remember him from the Pulling John documentary. And, I started watching all of his matches through WAL, and obviously learnt all the characters and all the rest of it from that. And Devin Larratt, because he's so charismatic and so interesting, and he has this crazy style where he, bleeds out his opponent, and it's very exciting and interesting to watch. So I was sort of came in from the documentary and then found the WAL from that. And yeah, that drew me into watching Devin Larratt, John Brasink, Travis Bajan, Todd Ziller, and all the guys that competed on WAL.
Yeah, I remember when I first started pulling, I was over at my friend Eric Waffel, who, was a legend back in the 90s, probably the best left hand on the planet. And I remember, I was over at his gym and I seen on the wall there was like a poster, and it was like the Game of Arms, and it had Travis, and I was like, "Oh, what's that about?" And he told me it was a reality show. So I remember going home that night and watching, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool. I never knew that these people are like, kind of like wrestlers, like with the characters." And it kind of drew me in. And then from Game of Arms, I found the WAL, and then I just started binge watching all the old WAL matches, and I'm like, "Oh man." And that's when I started really getting into the characters. And then I just remember, hitting up a lot of these people, and just hitting them up on Facebook and all. And then I became friends with them on Facebook, but I didn't actually send them a message. And then in the next thing, Travis Bajan's hitting me up, and he's like, "Yo, bro, what's up? I see you're new in the sport, and you're in the marijuana business, and I want my own my own bud strain." And I'm like, "Yo, this is nuts. The guy that I'm just watched on this reality show, he's like the superstar, just hit me up." I was like, this was crazy. And then next thing I know, my messenger is going off, my Facebook messenger, and it's a FaceTime, and it's Monster Michael Todd. And I'm like, no way. Like, what the hell is going on here? And then I answer it, and he's like, "Yo," he goes, "I seen you post your gym online and all." He's like, "I'm building a gym. I wanted to get your advice." And that's when I started realizing, I'm like, yo, these superstars are very accessible. They're just like hitting me up. And I was like, this is so cool. You watch all these professional sports, and you couldn't imagine like, these superstar players hitting you up. And now you're in this arm wrestling world, and you're like connecting with all these people. And literally like a couple of weeks later, I'm hanging out with Travis in person, and I'm like, yo, this dude's like a normal dude and everything. We're having a great time and all. So that was where I got like really hooked at, like, it's like hanging out with Michael Jordan. You're like, holy shit, I'm hanging out with Michael Jordan right now. So it was kind of just a trip for me, to see all that. And I contributed that all to the like Game of Arms and WAL days. And today we really don't have that. Yes, Devin's out there, and he's like the presence that know everybody knows him, that are like non-arm wrestlers. And whenever I say I arm wrestle, that's the first person they bring up is, "Yo, do you know Devin?" And my answer right back is, put in Devin Lorette and my name together and see what comes up. And then they look and they see a bunch of interviews, and they're like now looking at me all googly eyed, like, holy shit, this is really cool. So, but I can see how the times are changing and everything. And, they're, we kind of got away from that. But I think that, that might be something that, somebody should mess around with. I see Pro Panja doing huge things, maybe like incorporating that reality show, going along with your league. And, it kind of gets both things. You're building the story, you're branding these characters, you're getting them all known out there, and now they get to see them compete in these leagues, which is pretty cool. And Mr. Peanut, man, this guy really knows everything. I know Mr. Peanut's been around for a very long time in our sport and all, but he says, background: Copland sued Disney for over $100 million from a previous business. Disney lost and owed Steve $100 million plus. Then ESPN bought Game of Arms format from AMC, ESPN, never backed Las Vegas WAL, and that's when WAL folded. Wow, Mr. Peanut, you're enlightening us a lot, man. I don't know how you got all this internal info, but I guess this is kind of like, making sense now and all that. So do we know, Mr. Peanut, if Steve plans a comeback at all, or is he moved on to other businesses and not really focused on arm wrestling? And I wonder if, the presence of East versus West and King of Table also discouraged Steve. That could be another possibility. And I know that Steve got a lot of flack from the old contracts where, if you sign a contract with them, you were kind of locked in with 7 years. They kind of owned everything that you did, all the content that you put out there and all. And I know that people were kind of mad at that, because it was preventing, like the PAL guys like Levon and all them pulling the WAL guys. Everybody had their contracted athletes, and, now we couldn't cross network. And, I think that was one of the big problems that a lot of people had back then. But now that we're moving on to today, and when East versus West came out, they were all on, oh, we're not doing the contract things at first, but we're right back to those days again. Now we're back to, the locked in contracts, but that goes along with business. You build the brand of these characters, you want to lock them in with your organization, and but it does, we're back at the original problem, from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's right. Yeah, contracts can be a double-edged sword, and 7 years is a hell of a time to sign up to an organization. And I think a lot of people would have regretted that once the matches and everything stopped. I mean, and you can't go and arm wrestle. It's like, yeah, I think that the contracts that are coming out with East versus West, that they have to offer you a certain amount of matches per year or something like that. And if they don't, then the contract is void. I know that's the same with the UFC, that they must offer you a certain amount of matches. And so even if, your opponent gets injured or whatever, it's like they can offer you a replacement. If you turn that down, it's like, well, they still met their side of things. Like they still offered you an opponent and an ability to fight. And so they met their requirement. But 7 years is a very long time. It's almost like the same with actors that sign up to a studio and maybe if you are an unknown actor and then you land the lead role or a significant role in a franchise film, and it's the first of a potential list of sequels, and you might sign up for 5 films, but that also stops you from being able to act in any other movies until those 5 films have been made. And maybe they make 3 of them and then they shelve it for 10 years and you're stuck just not being able to work. And so there is a difficulty in signing a contract where on the day you may be like, oh, this is amazing, five pitches, and you're getting this money and all the rest of it. But on the other hand of it, it does restrict you from being able to do other things and work with other promotions or do other films or whatever. So it does have those elements of ups and downs. And I've seen a couple of comments asking about Riekerd. Riekerd is at work, and he will be popping on the show. He's got the link and everything, but it would only be a quick 5 to 10 minute thing is the only amount of time he was able to give us, but he will jump in when he's got a free moment at work.
Yeah, and we're going to get Riekerd on before the October 27th. Me and you will do a specialized interview just for us, and kind of get him out there, and because I know a lot of people want to hear from him for sure. And then just back to the contracts with those 7-year contracts, and what also was scary about that was when you actually dive into them and read them, they controlled the content as well. You know what I mean? So they were in charge of promoting you, and anything that you put out, they would have to approve and all. So, that's where it was like really scary. And I got to experience a little of it because, they made them smaller when they were going out for the casting. I think it was down to 5 years just because they were hearing so much flack from it. But, when I was reading through it, it was scary. It was like, oh my God, like, if they wanted to really, kind of shelf you or, have you sign and you couldn't do anything else. But at the same time, I just remember talking with all the other people that were signing these contracts, and we were like, well, where else are you going to compete? You know what I mean? At that time, they would only show around. They were the only one offering anything. So it was like, well, I'm not making anything now. I'm not, don't have anything big going on. So I guess, I'm going to sign. There was no other options available. So that's kind of where everybody was at that time. They were like, yeah, it sucked signing a 5-year or a 7-year contract, but at the same time, there was no other places to go. And you were like, all right, well, it's better than nothing. So I guess I'm just going to go along with it and sign it. But, it also has its downfalls when you're just signing your life away. And now if, you get on bad standing with somebody and now they're just going to shelf you. So you signed this contract and now you're not even getting matches and you're not able to do anything, and you got to get approved for anything outside of the WAL events to go to. That kind of is scary and kind of sucks in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And you're seeing the people that are signing these contracts right now with certain promotions that are for multiple year deals, and I would be hesitant to recommend that for somebody when you've got so many promotions that are popping up around the world all at once, and you're seeing amazing productions being done by guys like Knuckles Up, you know, we're trying to do our thing with AWE. You're seeing Pro Panja coming up as well. You're seeing all these North American promotions. Every weekend, there's 5 or 6 tournaments going on over there. So, you know, if you're going to lock yourself into, okay, I'm gonna sign a $3,000 deal, $3,000 a year for the next 5 years, and it's like within 6 months you've got Knuckles Up saying, hey, we'll give you 20 grand to come on our promotion, or 10 grand or something, and they're like, I can't do it for 5 years. Like, you know, it's one of those things that I don't think it's a good idea. I think one match at a time contracts are fair enough. That's what we do with ours. It's like if you're signing up, if you're going to compete, it's like, you know, you compete with us and then you're free. You go do something else with anybody else. Or if you want to do our next event, you can do our next event. But we're not going to restrict people and say, no, you signed with us, you can't do anything else. It doesn't work that way.
So I kind of want to just shift our conversation a little. You know, there's been a couple of things that have been talked about in the community lately, and you know, as far as just, you know, smaller promotions and organizations, you know, throwing events. And what do you think is, you know, a sufficient amount of time to space an event out in the same state? You know, say we're in Florida and you want to throw an event, you know, at the end of October, and then, you know, you got somebody else that wants to throw one a week or two after your event. You know, like, how do we go about that? What do you think is like a safe time to space these out so that, you know, you're not taking away from both events, and that everybody's going to get the, you know, the proper entry fees and, you know, a lot of people showing up? What's your thoughts on that whole situation, Matt?
Yeah, it's difficult to do efficiently. It takes collaboration and cooperation between the promotions, because I know for us here, we don't want to step on the toes of any other promotion that may have something going on. Even when we try to schedule an event, I look at the North American calendar and I'm like, okay, I don't want to clash with anything that's happening over there. Obviously, every weekend has something on, and there's only 52 weekends a year, which, you know, can make it restrictive. And obviously, you know, there's probably more than 52 events going on, so you're going to clash at some point. In terms of a local, like a state to state sort of thing, it would really just rely on the promoters in that state to work with each other and say, look, we're running an event on this date. You know, do you have anything that is close to that? You know, maybe we'll try to work together so we allow the people that are going to be attending to have the maximum time to recover, and we can both be successful. But you know, it depends on the promoter and the person that would hope that people would want to do that and be collaborative.
But what do you think? Like, you know, what's a sufficient amount of time? You know, so this way, if, you know, I go and pull end of October, you know, what do you think? Because you're not going to be able to pull really 2 weeks after that. You know, you're still going to be broken down. You're still going to be sore and all. So where do you think is like the fine line? Do you think like maybe 3 weeks, 1 month? Like, you know, we're all trying to grow the sport, and we're all trying to get, you know, everybody to, you know, be able to participate in all our events and all. So, you know, do you think 3 weeks would be a proper amount of time to space them out, or do we need longer than that?
I think it just depends on the promoter. Ideally, for the athletes, you know, they'd want as much time between events as possible in terms of recovery. But realistically, if you have a venue and they say these are the only dates available, and maybe you've already pre-booked it, or maybe, you know, that is the only time you can get in, it may not be realistic to say more than 2 weeks, or, you know. And I think as long as you're not doing it on the same day, it's kind of like, well, we want to not step on each other's toes, but there is the reality side of it as well, where, you know, we can't have the perfect scenario every single time. So sometimes it is like, look, we're not going to directly compete with you, but we will be on the next week or in 2 weeks' time. Or, you know, ideally for the athletes, you want to give them as much time as possible. But I think the athletes have to remember that it's not all about having the perfect situation occurring every single time an event takes place.
I agree with that, but I think, as far as states, like if you're going to throw an event in your state and, there's another person going to throw one, 1 week or 2 weeks after, I think that's kind of defeating each other. I think that, we need to kind of work better together with people that are local to us. And now I'm not talking about as far as like just super match events like pay-per-views or, like the big organizations. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying local small promotions that are throwing events, and I think that if you're an event person and you're planning on these events, I think you need to, at the beginning of the year, say January, you need to post what your plan is for the next year in your state, because it's getting so saturated everywhere. And it's like I'm seeing a lot of little squabbles going between people, and instead of like fighting with each other, we just need to have a better system of doing it. So I think if you're planning on doing something, maybe post that schedule out at the beginning of the year, for the next year, so people could work around that. And then if you guys do have, something that's going to step on each other's feet, you guys talk it out and come to a fair agreement rather than going to war with each other. Because I'm seeing like I'm giving Florida as an example, because there's just so many different promotions and so many different events, and it gets to the point where if you're throwing events every week or two, you know everybody's losing. Nobody's getting the entry fees, where if you just did that one event each month, you'd get 300-400 entries. But instead of they're throwing every week, every 2 weeks, now each event is only getting 50 entries, so nobody's winning at the end of the day there. And it's just something I feel like that we need to work out and kind of plan out better for everybody, so that nobody's really losing on that. And and it's a great thing just for that state that everybody could focus on that one event each month. So I'm thinking like 3 weeks to a month would be like the perfect kind of space in between all that for it all to work out.
It's so strange from our perspective. It's really the same for Ashleigh as well, that you have so many events that they clash so hard. We have a couple of events per year if we're lucky, and so yeah, one event per state per year is basically how it works here. So it's pretty hard to clash with each other, but it shows to me that the arm wrestling world is growing significantly if they're stepping on each other's toes to that level over in America.
Yeah. Yep. Wow.
Well, yeah, it's definitely getting to that point, where, I was going to start throwing events again, and I started looking at the schedule. And, originally I was looking, sometime in like March. And then, the closest thing that I could find where there was like a separation of events was the end of May, like the last week of May. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, 2-3 years ago, it wasn't like that. You could pretty much, set an event 3 months before and you're pretty good. Now they have it all locked in for the whole year, and you're lucky to find an open weekend where you're not stepping on other people's toes. And, it's not a bad thing, but it's also, it's getting so saturated where, it's almost like not worth it. And, from that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to fall back from throwing my own events again. I think I would be more of a service to the arm wrestling community by just sticking as a promotion where I promote other people, like other organizations' events, and I put spotlight on them. And I think that's kind of moving forward what Italia Arm Wrestling Promotion is going to do, rather than actually throwing my own tournaments. Because, there's just so many of them. It's so saturated. I'd rather just help out everybody and, spotlight their events. Well, I want to just go over one more time the AWE event, October 27th. I want to talk about that real quick. With Ashleigh's got her main event and match going against Keziah Harrington. It's both right hand and left hand. Matt's going to be putting it out for the North America. It'll be going out that Sunday morning, October 27th. First thing we wake up, we're going to get to see the edited version and all. Can't wait for that. We got also the 8-man event they got going on, double elimination. They got some monsters in there, all trying to take down Riekerd Bornman, who is like the young phenom that, he owns the belt right now. And they're all trying to compete to be the next one to beat Riekerd. Riekerd, which that is definitely going to be a hard feat to do. And then we also didn't get to see Brett Coots, who, I mean, we had him on a couple weeks back on the Buzz show, and this dude is just jacked, man. Like 17 years in the sport, looks like a bodybuilder, and he thinks he's got the formula to take down Riekerd, and they're going to be going at it left hand as well. So really fun to see that one as well. But Ashleigh, where can people get in touch with you if they want to, get you on a next super match or just to, talk with you? Is there any social platform that you would like to put spotlight on?
Instagram is my main one. TikTok is like my biggest following, but Instagram's my main one, and it's Ashleigh_Hoeta. That's for all my social medias. So moving forward, I have decided with a few people I'm going to be reattempting my world record in April next year. So that's that's the main goal after this comp. Straight off the plane, straight into another prep for bench, and then I'm done. And then I'm gonna fully just stop with the bench, and then just move fully over to arm wrestling, which is very exciting.
Where can everybody see the original 700-pound bench, the world record? Where can they see that on your platforms?
We've got it on, I think it's on everything. The video is on my Instagrams, my TikToks. The photo is on Facebook. Really cool. Eddie Hall shared it as well twice, so I was really excited about that.
That is really, really cool. And so do you have any matches set after this Kazai? I know you said you're going into prep to go and, hit that bench press again, but is there anybody else that you're targeting or somebody that you would, perhaps want a super match against?
I was asked to do a super match in Florida next month. I turned it down though, just because it was meant to be Sarah, and then 3 weeks straight into facing Jocelyn, I think her name is. She's also another bencher. I think her raw bench is 145 kgs. But yeah, no, I've got nothing lined up. I think there is an Australian comp in May next year, if possible. I don't know whether it's going ahead or not, but if it does, I will be heading over to, I think it's the Gold Coast for that one. Which isn't a super match, but I think it's like a tournament. Yeah.
Now, when you said Jocelyn, was that Jocelyn Breeson from Canada?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, she's an absolute beast. I've been a big fan of her. I actually got to see her at last year's Winter Blast, and I seen her get on the side table and just line up all the dudes there and was just going through them like hot knife through butter. I mean, just an absolute beast. I started following her that day. I've been watching all her gym lifts, and I mean, she just makes me feel bad about everything I'm doing in the gym when I see her putting up the weight she does, and it's like, holy shit, she's an absolute beast. So I would love to see that match down the line. That would definitely be a really cool match to see you get in. Maybe AWE can make that happen one day and bring Jocelyn out over there. That'd be a good one. I really would approve of that for sure. Well,
cool. Yeah, she's strong.
Well, Ashleigh, I want to thank you for coming on today. It was a real pleasure. I wish you the best of luck in both of your super matches against Kazaya. I hope, you pull it off. Well, obviously, it sounds like you're really, really confident with that left hand. You 100% chance of winning, and you gave 85% on the right. So I definitely want to have Kazaya on before then and just kind of hear her, what she's got to say about all that. And looking forward to that as well. But thank you for coming on. Let's see that gun show before you call it a night. There you go. Yeah. And everybody check out all her social media platforms. I definitely want to see her benching 700 pounds. Get over there and check it out. And like she said, she was featured by Eddie Hall, which that is an honor in itself to be on there. Very, very cool.
Those are the best double biceps I've seen.
There you go. All right, Ash. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Now I would like to introduce.
Awesome.
I would like to introduce our next guest. We got Dara Singh from India coming on. Here he is. What's up, Dara? How are you doing tonight, brother?
His mic is muted. Hang on, I'm trying to unmute it for him.
Yeah. There we go. Am I audible? Hey,
You are. Yes.
yeah, great, great. Hey, Paul, it's morning here. So I would say good morning to you guys. And of course, Matt is in our own country. In fact, he's in my state. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well, mate. It is very early. And when I originally said
Yeah,
to you the time, I was like, yeah, so it's 7 a.m. And you're like,
yeah.
yeah,
The
nah, can we
funny
make it
part is,
later?
I was awake by 7, and then I saw your message and
Oh,
I slept again for a few minutes. That's it.
I just
of course you did.
So I just want to say to
Yeah.
everybody, we were just talking about all the different events and all, and Drew
Uh-huh.
24 just put a post up about Gold Arms where you could check out all the events coming up, and everybody's been posted on there because it does get a little overwhelming with all these different events, and you miss a lot of them and all. So Gold Arms is a good place for you guys to get your resource and kind of see what's coming up next. And it seems like every weekend they got something posted up there. So thank you, Drew, for sharing that. So, Dara, I want to hear about you, brother. I want to hear about your journey into the arm wrestling world. Like, what inspired you to pursue arm wrestling?
Yeah. So, I used to like everyone else. I used to arm wrestle everyone in my school. My father was pretty good at arm wrestling. He never trained for it, but he told me that he has won state championship in arm wrestling. And as a kid, I used to arm wrestle with him, and it was just fun. And at the time, it wasn't big in India, so hardly people understood arm wrestling or uh, recognize it as a sport, right? So. Then in probably in 2012, 13 or 14, I guess 14, I guess. Yeah, 13 or 14. A friend of mine messaged me who's like pretty active in arm wrestling scene in India. And he messaged me that I got to know that you were strong. I don't know how he got to know that. But he called me, invited me over to his house, and he actually had an arm wrestling table. And that was the very first time I saw an arm wrestling table. Till that time I had no like I knew what arm wrestling was, and I had seen some videos, and I had seen pulling john, of course, but I had no idea that okay, these are the rules and this is the setup. So Erin Kundur, he's an arm wrestler in India, and he's quite famous, and he invited me over to his house and showed me, okay, this is the table, and he was the first guy. I was at that time, I was around 85 and he might be around 70, 75, and he was the first guy who stopped me. And I was like, okay, I was surprised, okay, this happens. So the lighter guy can also do something to you. And then he just showed me these are techniques and everything. And he was like, you should join, and we should get to know you more. And then at that time, I was doing my MBA and I went to Pune. That's near Mumbai, where Matt is. And I was not much interested. I was just going around, yeah, we'll see. And these people kept messaging me. Even in Mumbai, I used to stay in Mumbai before COVID, and Parth used to stay there. Parth, Matt has met him. He's like a big time arm wrestler in India. And he messaged me that you should join us for practice, and I was not interested. I don't know why. It was not happening. Something happened around COVID 2020. Something happened. I had a subscapulary tear, and subscapulary tear. After that, things I thought of recovering it because I was given a physiotherapy routine by the physiotherapist, and while doing it I started training my calf, my pronation, just for the sake of it. And then something happened at that time and I was fully consumed by arm wrestling. So everything I searched on YouTube was about arm wrestling. I started following each and every event about arm wrestling, and then it clicked. And luckily at that time Pro Panja was booming, so I joined Pro Panja, and and the rest is history. Now I'm here with you guys.
Now, back in 2014, what was arm wrestling looking like in India? Was it, a well-known sport? Was there a lot of people participating in it?
Okay. So I was an arm wrestling enthusiast before actually joining arm wrestling. But at that time, I remember one of my friend where I used to work. He called me that okay, arm wrestling is a real sport. I thought that even flying kites is a real sport. So that's how they used to joke. So no, it wasn't recognized. And eventually, at that time, there used to be a competition. People used to train just a month before or 2 months before competition. That's how it used to be. And it wasn't a sport the way it is now. Now we have a platform, we have a voice, and now the scenario has changed completely. But at that time, hardly one competition, one national, one state, once a year. That's it. That's about it. That's how it used to be. There were people who were occasionally like conducting some super matches, but that was rare, and the viewership was considerably low.
What made the growth of arm wrestling over there? What would you say was like the big changing turning point for it?
Yeah, it's. I would say it's with Pro Panja. So arm wrestling was viewed as just a hobby, right? And when Pro Panja came in, the level of production and everything that they brought in with them, that gave it a very gave a very professional touch to it. So the athletes were actually flown down to the places, and they were given the necessary requirements and everything. That changed the scenario over here. Before that, there used to be, okay, one national, one state or district competition, whatever in your respective states, and later after that, you have to wait for the year for another competition. There might be one or two tournaments in between, but there wasn't an official thing which is happening, which is giving you exposure, production, videos being put out, and the scenario has changed after Pro Panja. That's for sure.
What was the year that Pro Panja came out? Was that 2020, 2021?
It was before 2020, I guess. But I wasn't with Pro Panja. I was not even into arm wrestling at that time. Like I knew arm wrestling, I was following arm wrestling a bit, but I wasn't interested in arm wrestling that much and training seriously. It was the year 2020 when I started, and I guess Pro Panja was around that time only. Uh, Probably my friend Abhishek is watching. He might give me the exact date here from Pro Panja. Abhishek from Pro Panja is watching here.
Yep.
So, but it was around 1920 only that Pro Panja started putting out their initial events, and I wasn't with Pro Panja at that time.
How
I
how
wasn't
did
even recognized in India at that time as
how
an
did
arm
you
wrestler.
how did you find out about Pro Panja and like what made you go and try out and all?
Uh, it wasn't me who went to Pro Panja. Basically, there was a competition in Nagpur, my city, and there were some champions who came down, and then Tauhid, if you know Tauhid, he's a big name. So he came down, and he was champion of Pro Panja at that time, and it was a tournament. So I played it in it, and I flashed Tauhid at that time. So everyone was surprised that who's this guy. And that's when Mr. Parveen Dubas contacted me and asked me to join the league and everything. And I was interested because, of course, they had a great platform. So eventually, that's when I joined Pro Panja. That was 22, 22, 22, 23. 23, I joined Pro Panja.
Now, before that, were you training like on a, every
Yes.
week you were on the table? And what does your training look like now? Are you hitting the gym as well, or are you just doing table time?
So I started seriously training for arm wrestling, the pronation, riser, and everything work around 2020 only. 2020 when the COVID started, March. That's when I started training all the. And I was training before that only. I used to compete in another federation, and I won my first medals there initially in 2022 and all. And I there were some small super matches organized by the athletes themselves, so I won that also in 2021. And later, I was obsessed with arm wrestling at that time. Like I'm still obsessed with arm wrestling, but I'm telling you, I was if I'm not training arm wrestling, I was just watching videos. I was chatting with friends. I was chatting with senior arm wrestlers who knew more about arm wrestling. And it is something that I couldn't stop. So if I tell you that I was training only, let's say, 2 days, 3 days for arm wrestling, it would be wrong because I made a table, a pulley, a setup at my home. I got a squat rack, everything. I made a gym at my home, and I started being on the table almost all day. I used to work on the table, take calls on the table. So I got obsessed with it. As of now, I'm training like let's say 2 to 3 days with strength training for specifically for arm wrestling. Rest I do other work like typical body. I come from a powerlifting background, so I also do squats and deadlifts. I love them. But table time mostly it's once a week during competitions. Let's say if I'm leading to a competition, I start doing table time more. But and I taper down the volume in strength training, and I peak in a way. Of course, you know what a peak is. Probably you also from powerlifting background, right, Paul?
Say that again. I missed the last part.
Yeah, yeah. You are from powerlifting background, right? You have a
Bod-
powerlifting background,
bodybuilding, a little different.
bodybuilding. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would taper, but I would say strength training specifically for arm wrestling 2 to 3 times, and once I would do the table time. That's about it for now.
Yeah, actually, right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing 5 days a week of bodybuilding training, and then I've incorporated 3 days of just where I do arm wrestling Pacific workouts, and then I've been every day, even during my bodybuilding workouts, I'm always training the hand and wrist. That is something that I'm really putting a lot of focus on right now. And Pro Panja League said first event was February 2020. So that's when they
Yeah.
first came into play and all. Matt, I want to hear about from you, brother, because I know you've been in India the last couple of weeks, and I know you're going around to all the different clubs and all that. What do you see out there? Is there a difference between there and Australian training, for arm wrestling? What do you see in the difference in clubs and all?
Yeah, so we've caught up with two of the clubs. One is called the Table Terminators, and then the other one is the Brute Force United, I believe it was, BFU. Both had a fantastic time with both clubs, and everyone that came along was wonderful and really friendly, and yeah, it treated us like celebrities, which was very strange for me, and I guess Ryan's probably used to it a little bit more than I am. But it was absolutely wonderful to meet everybody, and yeah, in terms of the training, I think there was a little bit of this. Probably happens for Ryan more, but there's a lot of people that I think they want their moment, their highlight reel moment for their Instagram, and so they might hang back till he's had 30 matches, and then they'll jump on and try to flash fit him and get their friend to film it, and so. But in terms of the training styles, I think everywhere I've been around the world, it's very similar. People, are working together, and there's advice, and you sort of get on with someone. It's like, all right, you do your thing. I'll just see what you're doing, and we'll work from there. And as to whether or not whatever they're doing, it's like, oh, that feels really strong. Can you try doing this? Maybe try adjusting that. Regrip here. So in terms of the actual technical advice or the support that's on the table, it's very similar to what I've experienced around the world.
Now, as far as like amount of pullers that are at these clubs, are they similar to Australia, or is there a lot more people going to the clubs in India?
Oh yeah, there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
We are a population of 133 million crore, like crazy population we have. So it is going to happen. Yeah.
So, Dara,
Yeah,
how big is your club? Like, how many people go to your table time practice a week? How many would you say are there?
Yeah. So I live in the same state. Like Mumbai is in the same state. My city is Nagpur, and in 2020, the arm wrestling there used to be club here, and it wasn't active. So there was only one friend of mine who we used to practice, and now there are over 50 to 100 people who come for practice at my place every Sunday. So it is blown.
How,
Yeah.
how, how many tables would you say you got going at each practice?
So we went up to 4 tables, and and now we have a lesser because some guys took their table. But yeah, 4 tables is what we need as of now, and we are planning to make 2 more.
Wow.
So that's how it is going as of now.
We got a question from he says, did Ryan pull with that young fella Auden is supposed to pull? So I think Auden's got a match set up with one of the guys from India, is it? He's a young
Not
guy.
yet.
No.
It hasn't been finalized yet.
So Dara, do you know who they're talking about? Does anybody know the name of the guy?
Yeah, probably Abbas Rana, you mean, right?
A fast runner. Yeah, that's the guy I had a match with. Very strong inside puller.
And
Yeah.
how old is he? And kind of tell us a little about him.
So Abbas is just 16 years old. It'll be difficult to believe that, but he's a genetic specimen made for arm wrestling. Big hands. Yet he's probably he has reached 6 feet by now. Probably the last time I met him, he was 5'10", but he's a growing man. So he's around 6 now, and he has huge hand for a 6 feet tall guy. And he's around 105 kg and extremely strong. Like very, very strong. He benches around 200 kg. Imagine that. And
That's
he's not
400.
even a proper powerlifter, so he doesn't know the proper technique. He won't arch his back properly and fix his leg and use the leg drive and everything. He'll just go casually, set, start benching. That's it. 160
It's four.
kg reps, 180 kg reps, and then 200 kg. He's that strong. uh
It's
his
440 pounds.
inside game.
At 16
What?
years old, that's crazy. At 16 years old, benching 440 pounds, that's impressive. So, what's your
Yeah.
guys' prediction if that match gets locked in? Who do you think is going to get the win? Dara, you
So
first.
if the match goes into a hook, there's absolute no chance that Auden is going to get anywhere. Yeah, but Auden, uh, having his father on his corner, he's going to be devious, and he'll grip all high and almost cover the knuckle, and still won't let Abbas breathe while arm wrestling. And so it is difficult how he would deal with it. But yeah, we have good talent now, even heavyweights. They're young. They're pretty young. So the thing about arm wrestling, I feel, is it takes time for your tendons and ligaments to get conditioned for it, right? It's great when these young guys are starting out right at the right age. Like I started very late, extremely late. But Abbas at 16, he's already WAF World Sub Junior Champion, which is crazy because now if he trains seriously and stays injury free for next 5 years, probably he's making like moving some major people in WAF for sure. Like for sure, this guy has the genetics. He's crazy about arm wrestling, and he's doing all the necessary work also.
Are they
Yeah.
offering arm wrestling in school? Like, are there arm wrestling clubs for people to join in your school systems?
Uh, Not yet, but yeah, there are some schools, and there are some arm wrestlers who've given some seminars in at schools, but it hasn't come in the system like the way cricket is in India. If you follow cricket, of course, Matt does because Australia versus India, we are the biggest rivals, and but India, if something gets in the head of the common crowd, it is going to blow out of proportion. That's for sure. So that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, we are trying to get this into school. There's a safety aspect related to arm wrestling, which people need to understand. So if you are not smart enough, kids especially, they are going to get themselves injured. So that is something which scares people a lot. And nowadays there are a lot of videos floating around of arm breaks and everything. So people think that okay, this is way too dangerous. Even my friends tell me that this sport is quite dangerous and they break your arms. And I'm like, okay, it's like telling me that don't drive a car, don't because you get into an accident. That's that's stupid. You need to know what you're doing.
So we got a comment from Pro Panja League. He says, Mr. Peanut, we are investing in data collection. We are in the process of segregating data similar to what UFC have. We have hired computer science graduates for this purpose. Yeah, they're going all in over there. They're dropping the money. They're really getting all the analytics down, and that is definitely key. You guys are definitely doing it the right way. I wish somebody would come and do that in North America. Definitely would help. So, Matt, what have you seen as far as the age of arm wrestlers? Are we seeing a lot of young Indian arm wrestlers competing out there when you go into these clubs and all? What's like the general age range that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's similar to what I've experienced in other clubs. Is that there's definitely a vast range. you going from teenagers, young teenagers, all the way up to people that may be in their 50s, early 60s, which is incredible from my perspective, because you've got people that are of all ages and they are able to get on the table with each other regardless as to their age. But it feels that it is more promoted for the younger people here in India, that there seems to be the youth are really jumping on board with arm wrestling. I think Pro Panja is a big reason behind that they've seen that and gone, oh, this looks like a fun thing, and they're choosing to go with the arm wrestling route as opposed to other sports that maybe have caught their interest instead. So it's fantastic to see that these young people are getting involved in the sport. Yesterday, Ryan and I had a lunch with, there's a Canadian girl that's been doing really well, and she's her family is from India, and they've come over here for the Asian Cup, which is happening next weekend. She is doing tremendous things. She's only 13 years old, and so her family is very invested in supporting her and wanting to take her internationally into matches. So she's been competing and doing phenomenal things at the age of 13. She's going to be competing in a world tournament, the Asian Cup. So seeing that at a 13-year-old level, it shows me that we're doing the right things. If people from the youth side are wanting to get involved in the sport, it's heading in the right direction.
We got a question. He says, Matt, you said you had a match with him. How was it, and did Ryan pull him?
Yeah, it was interesting for me because we were talking about this yesterday, actually. In terms of people not wanting to enter a tournament or not wanting to have a match because they don't think that they'll win. And there's been so many opportunities and so many times, and even with our 8-man tournament that we're running on the 27th, we've approached people and said, hey, we'd love to have you involved in this tournament. And they say, well, who else is in the tournament? And then you say, oh, this person. And they go, oh, no. And it's like, but why? And they go, oh, I wouldn't win. And it's like, you can't only enter tournaments that you're going to win. You can't win forever. Like, losing is how you learn. And so for me, when I had the match with Abbas, I knew that he was a world champion, and it's like, I've got basically no shot here, but I get the opportunity to spotlight him and give him a platform internationally, and maybe get some eyes and give him a platform that he might not have had. And I get to get on the table and have fun having a match in India. Like that to me is like, I don't really, I'm going to give it my best effort and I'm going to try to win. But the reality is I'm probably going to get beaten. And that's exactly what happened. I got destroyed by Abbas. He's incredibly strong. But in terms of his style, he's an inside puller. And I had been training with Taryn Broad, who's in Adelaide. And he is also a very, very strong inside hooker. And his style is what I have experienced with every person that uses the hook. With Taryn, is that he'll turn in like this and then he'll go that way. And I've felt that with nearly every single person who hooks, is they turn in, they drive sideways. And so I've been training with him for, 6 weeks, defending in that position to get around it with the top roll. And when I got on with Abbas, he's turned in like this, which I was expecting, but then he went down. He went down and back, and I was like that. Like my hand went that way as opposed to that way. So I was not expecting that whatsoever. And there was only one moment in, I think, the second or third round where he actually did go sideways. I caught it, and I started driving back, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get the pin here. And then he let go and slipped out. And I was like, God damn it. And then he went straight back to doing that thing, which, I wasn't prepared for at all. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have taken the match. So my point here is that I think getting on the table at any opportunity that you get is worth it.
Well, we just learned how to beat Matt, everybody. So you got to do like a straight drag hook back and all. That's the formula right there. And then how did he do against Ryan? Did he get the grip up against Ryan Bowen?
Yeah, he didn't. He couldn't pin Ryan, but Ryan has been 11, 12 years in the sport at this point. I think Abbas was 15 at that time. So but he still said he's phenomenally strong. Yeah, he's 15, and although he was still the junior champion left hand and right hand. Ryan came away saying this kid is phenomenally strong, and yeah, he has a bright future in the sport for sure.
So Spacey says 16 years old, benching 440, girls benching 700. We're cooked, boys. That's a good comment right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Dara, what age are you at? Because Topol, we're talking about another guy, a boss that is possibly going to be going against Auden, who is 16 years old. But Dara, how old are you, brother?
Brother, I am 34. I'll be turning 35 in a month. And I started late. I started arm wrestling at 30. Before
Okay.
that, it was just a casual thing.
So I
And
got to
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What I wanted to ask you was competing in the Pro Panja League, it must have been an amazing experience. Can you kind of like tell us like your whole experience and what it was like?
Uh, Brother, it was crazy. Those 20 days, it was like we were high throughout, from morning to till night. We were just high and high on arm wrestling. We were either arm wrestling or talking about arm wrestling, or rather talking about the matches, what has happened, or fighting or strategizing. Everything was so much fun. Like it was one of the best experience I've had in a long time. Like, imagine over 180 arm wrestlers gathering together for 20 days and just being in arm wrestling. Whatever is happening is around arm wrestling. So it was a great experience, and I'm we are like just longing for it. And unfortunately, what happened led to the extension of like this year's Pro Panja. But hopefully, we are going to have a bigger season this time. Let's see.
How many people were on each team over at Pro Panja League?
So each team had 30 players. There were 10 weight categories, including the para, the women, and everyone, and players each weight category. So it was like that. And 30 players, six teams, 180 players together.
Very nice. And
So,
I remember them saying there was something like, 2,500 people trying out to get on it, and they only kept 180 or something
oh,
like
so it is probably you're talking about the ranking tournament. The ranking tournament had probably that much crowd pulled in. So it was for the ranking of Pro Panja's the seeds basically, who's going to be the first, second, third, and everyone. Based on that, they'll be picked up by the teams. But now, if they do it, trust me, there won't be any less than 10,000 guys trying, guys and girls trying for it.
Oh
They
my God.
can't even organize that way. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if Probanja has a plan to do it, but they cannot do it the way they did it because there'll be like at least 10,000 guys wanting to compete and join.
Wow. And then once you get on the show once, are you invited back all the time, or like how does that work?
Hey, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, hold on. Let me just hold on. Yeah.
There's some
What's up,
noise.
Riekerd?
Okay.
How you doing, brother? I think your audio is kind of going crazy right now. Hold on. Let me see. It's not letting me. Can
Probably
you
he's
hear
not
me,
wearing a
Riekerd?
earphone.
I don't think he can hear me right now.
Yeah, I think
He's
if
gonna.
you mute his mic, it may until we bring him on.
No, I guess he's not wearing a earphone.
There we go. We got him. So I wanted to ask you, Dara. So if you're on the show once, would you be invited again? Like, how does that work on? Like, once you make it, do you
So
get to come back?
okay, so the way it is going to happen is last year I played at 100 kg, though that's not the weight I want to be, but I just went there. So at 100 kg, I beat all the top players. So last year was pretty good for me. Then I had an injury, and now I did stem cells for it. I'm recovering, but if that's where like everyone knows where you stand, right? Once you beat all the top champions. Now, what they're planning is probably next year they'll have auctions, which means the teams are going to buy players. So at that time, you'll be picked based on your perceived value, right? And you'll be offered the necessary amount for it. But that's how you're going to fall in place. So whatever your perceived value is in the arm wrestling thing. Like for Abbas, he didn't play. Even I didn't play ranking tournament. But I was when I came here and I played nationals and everything. They saw me that I have something, so they picked me up. Abbas didn't play. I guess I'm not sure, but he didn't play a ranking tournament. He was just seeing me. Okay, he's doing good, so he was picked up. In fact, UV came to Pro Panja on the very last day. Uh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, we hear you. We hear you loud and clear, brother.
Yeah, UE, Matt has met him, Yuvraj Verma. He came on the very last day because there was some player who was like non-responsive, so he came in there. But after this, once people know where you stand and people have your data and Propanja, everything, now whenever the teams are going to pick you, so you know the model, right? There are it is like a, a league type model, like football league or cricket league. So every team is going to have its owner, and the management is going to pick players in from auctions the next time. So
Okay.
based on your perceived value, you're going to get picked. That's how it'll work.
Now, what's the key to standing out? You got 180 competitors coming. Like, is it something? Do you want to be a character? Do you want to, be very energetic? I got to watch, all the events and all. Pradeep put me on when it first came out, and I just fell in love with it. It was just the high energy with all the people, cheering on their teammate as they were arm wrestling. A lot of the guys would come out, and it was like kind of like like the big entrance, and you could just tell they were fired up, and it was just really addicting to watch. I started following a bunch of you guys. You were actually one of them that I was following. I remember Pradeep showed me a video of you pulling, and you were very animated and all. And I remember when Matt asked me about having you on the channel, I was like, oh my god, I already know him. Is like that was one of the dudes that definitely stood out. So what's the key to standing out in so many athletes and all?
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Moore, brother. Um, see, what I always tell people is arm wrestling. If you come on the stage just like an arm wrestler, win, lose, go back, no one is going to care, right? There's a reason why Devin Larrett is being followed the most. He's one of the most popular person in arm wrestling, or people who don't even know anything about arm wrestling still know. Right, my friends who know nothing about the once they know that I am an arm wrestler, they ask me about Devin Larrett. Something they'll say they can't even pronounce what the word is. The reason is he has a personality. Fans connect to the personality. They like the persona. It's not about just coming on stage, hitting someone and going back. So you have to show what you are on stage in your game. Like I do not like to just shout and be angry on the table. I have my way of sledging. I have my way of just playing around, and I usually have a smile on my face while doing all that stuff. So that's what people like to see. They like to see a different thing. If most of the arm wrestlers are going to come on the table, just shout, just fight as if they are going to kill the other person, probably it's repetitive for them. So and this is not something what I build. I just naturally am the way I show on the table. I just joke around. I have fun, and even while sledging someone, I'm having fun. It's not that I'm trying to just demean him, but I'm going to trouble him a lot. Whoever is on the table, when I want to, I'm going to trouble him a lot and while smiling. That's even more frustrating for the opponent, right? So, what I feel is people should be ready to show their personality. They should flow with the competition, not just stay there, just come, play, and go.
Now, let me ask you: is there like a time? Do they get to tell your story? Like, do you get like interviews before or after? Like, or is it just you get your stage time and that's where you got to stand out?
Yeah, so it's on a TV network. So we have times followed. The timings are followed precisely. So we get to know that we are going to enter the stage now, and the camera is on us, and he'll be like, "You're going live in like 1, 2, 3, go." Right? That's how it is. But we enter the stage, so there's an entry. You must have seen it, right? So everything is planned, and interviews and everything are done post in the hotels and in the backstage, while the changing rooms or the restrooms for players. At that time, the interviews are done, and the right content is being picked. And Abhishek, who's there, he does a great job in it. He asks the right question, so he triggers the right person and get the content. But yeah, so everything is content at that point of time, because everyone is so involved in arm wrestling and in the competition that we are sledging each other. We're talking about points and who's going to win, who's going to make it to the semis, and that's where the content comes from, because there's a system now which is functioning right automatically. You don't have to create content; it is going to come out.
Very nice.
You just
And
have to be there to record.
very nice. Matt, can you just send Riekerd, link again? Just tell him that we were having problems with his audio. I don't want him to think that we just, booted him off, but we couldn't hear anything and it was making a real loud noise and all. It looks like he was in his work truck.
Yeah, I sent him a message. He messaged and said that the signal that he had was really bad. He couldn't hear us, so he'll try again when he gets better signal.
Okay, perfect. And so, Matt, when you and Ryan are there, obviously it's not going on yet, but I think they're rescheduling for December. Are you just doing the actual, events, or are you going to be doing behind the scenes content where you're meeting all the athletes and kind of showcasing them as well? Like, kind of tell us what your whole job is over there.
Yeah, they haven't actually formally set the schedule as of yet. So I believe they're looking at next year at this point. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. In terms of what I'm here to do is the English commentary side of things. So I believe that we would be doing alternate days. In terms of Ryan would do one day, I would do the second day. But in terms of what we have control over, obviously we'd be here trying to make as much content as we possibly could to put out on our network and our channels, and trying to talk with as many of the arm wrestlers and the arm wrestling fans as we can. Whether Pro Panja wants us to speak with the athletes or do interviews with them, not exactly sure, but happy to do it if that's what they would like. One of the interesting points that they brought up yesterday, actually, we were talking to Pavin, and he said that so Pro Panja, the first season was broadcast in Hindi, in the language of Hindi, and he said that not all of the country speaks Hindi, so they, even though they got a massive audience watching, 32 million people watching the episodes, they weren't able to show it to everybody in terms of everyone understanding the language. So having the English side of it will boost those numbers significantly for the next event.
Yeah, I remember when I was watching them, it was actually in Hindi, and I still enjoyed it. I still was watching, and just from all the energy and the different characters that were arm wrestling, it was just really engaging. So now to see that they're bringing you and Ryan in as the commentary, I think this is going to really open the market in North America. And I keep telling everybody, you guys need to go over to Pro Panja YouTube channel and kind of just check out the highlights. You guys are definitely going to love it. Dara is one of the stars that definitely stood out when I watched his event and everything. He, just like you said, you could tell he's having a great time there. He loves what he's doing, and it definitely shows in the energy he brings on the table, which was pretty amazing. And then Spacey says, I wonder how Lachlan is dealing with losing his spot as King of Australia to a kid 2 years in, no less. I think he's only a little over a year, but you also got to remember, Lachlan isn't truly a super heavyweight. Lachlan, I see more around that 242-pound class, so, Riekerd is considerably a lot bigger man than him. So, I don't think Lachlan's really taking it to heart like that. And, I think it's actually a great thing for Lachlan, because now he has the horsepower to work with. Before that, he was generally training with Ryan Bowen, which, Ryan's a very strong dude and all, but, he's a lot lighter kind of a guy, where now you got Riekerd, who is just an absolute beast on the table. So I would say that they're probably helping each other out tremendously. And I think Matt would kind of have a little more insight on that. So what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. No, you're 100% correct. And Lachlan was very excited about working with Riekerd. And he said, finally, there's somebody that is, pushing me to get better and better and better. And when you surround yourself with champions, you're going to improve your game significantly. So, and he did say the same thing. I'm not a true super heavyweight, and I think he's sitting actually around the 105 kilo, which is like the 230 pound at the moment. So he is probably more suited to that weight class. The only reason he was sitting in that super heavyweight class was that he had the ability to in Australia, because there wasn't anybody that could really challenge him. But, you've got Riekerd. It's like, okay, well, let's work together. And maybe you're pushing with more strength or, that side of things because of the size difference. But working together and making each other stronger is going to be beneficial for both of them.
And I do remember Lachlan saying that he wanted to go more of a healthy approach, and trying to stay in that super heavyweight class. You got to do a lot more stuff, and you're kind of sacrificing your health in a way. And I think he just felt a lot more comfortable, staying around that 230 mark, and the competition is more his size. And, when you look at Lachlan, dude, that dude is just so jacked. It's insane. The dude must just live in the gym. Well, I know he does. He's always working out, and, the biceps that guy is God are just next level and all. So I think he kind of found more of his sweet spot where he wants to compete on a world level, because I could see Lachlan being world level in the 230s, where in the supers, it's not that fair for him, man. You got guys that are, 300 pounds. You got guys like Corey West that, you'd have to go across, and, that really doesn't look too much fun to be pulling somebody that big and all. But I wanted to kind of ask Dara his opinion on this. First off, have you ever pulled Brian Bowen?
Yes, I did. I did last, like probably on fifth of this month, and this was the lighter version of Ryan. I guess now he's around 90 kg, not the one that faced Mazahir. And he told me that he is having some issues with sideways pulling. So his side pressure isn't up to the mark because he has some ulnar, like some issues with ulnar nerve or something. But yeah, I found him very technical as of now in hook. I was able to get him, but it was just a practice, and he is suffering through some injury, I guess. But yeah, the best part about Ryan is he he is observing each and everything and trying to understand the way he explained that what Mazahir did and how he understood what he was doing and Mazahir's style he explained us. And I understood that this guy is deeply into arm wrestling and wants to understand each and every aspect of it, right? And I don't think so. On face value, he appears to be a guy who's very confident and kind of at times come off as egoistic and having some weird delusions about himself. But when you meet him, I personally feel that he's that much invested in arm wrestling that he always wants to find ways to get to his weight. And again, this is a point regarding the last question you guys just discussed. People have to understand that there are genetic freaks. We cannot do anything about it. Like he met Yuvraj. Yuvraj is just like 2 years into 1 or 2 years into arm wrestling, and this guy is growing every month, just like Abhas. He's another champion. This time when I met him, his thumb was even bigger. So when I gripped him, his hand was here, and my fingers were somewhere here on his thumb. So what do I do? He's 6'3". I'm 5'8". What do I do about it? Yeah, and he's a guy who came after me, and I have also helped him with some few things about training and everything. But rather, it is a great thing because I feel elated when I see someone like Yuvraj or Abbas doing great in arm wrestling. They are they are the future. They are someone to look up to, right? So genetics matter. You won't see a 5 feet 5 inch guy in NBA. There's a reason for it,
Yeah, no,
right? So
I
Yeah, yeah,
agree.
yeah, please.
With as arm wrestling gets bigger, you're gonna attract these genetic freaks to give it a shot, and I think it's gonna kind of change the game along. I mean, look at Brian Shaw now getting into it, and you got guys like that, and they're gonna come in, and within 1 year they're gonna be a problem to even the elite level. The strength they're coming in. I mean, just look at Ashleigh. We just had Ashleigh on as our guest. She's benching 700 pounds. You know what I mean? So there's not too many ladies in this world that are going to be able to deal with that power unless you're at that very top level of the world in, technique and all that. But, I got a question in my own head. I'm trying to size you up there. I'm trying to figure out what level of an arm wrestler you are, and that leads me back to our last question when you pulled Ryan Bowen. What is your thoughts if you had a super match against Ryan tomorrow? Who would be the winner?
I would say I would win.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay. Feeling spicy over there, Dara. Feeling spicy. Now, what do you
Yeah.
think, Matt? Have you got to see both of them in action? What would your prediction be in that super match?
Dara's a good arm wrestler. He's very strong. He knows his lanes. He knows how to set up in the right ways. He's experienced. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Ryan has the edge in technical ability, and I think that he may be able to deny Dara what he needs to access all of his power. But it'd be fun. I mean, why not? This is the fun thing about the sport. It's like, why can't everyone just go against everyone? Like, I'd love to see anybody go against anybody, really.
Well, so my next
See,
question, Dara, is what about Auden Lorette? What is your thoughts? Do you think you would be able to beat Auden in a super match?
the difference in Auden and Ryan's is so of course Ryan's set up quite deep with me in order to check my hook strength and everything. But what I feel is Auden has an extremely long forearm, and he has that style of posting and then denying the grip to a shorter guy, and that is a problem for any supination based or cup based hooker, right? So that will be a problem. So I don't think Auden would be right. The good part about Ryan's is that his hand feels a bit more comfortable. Like I have just gripped Auden when I went to watch KOT in Dubai. His hand is bigger, and probably now he's growing and he has got thicker. Uh, he would be able to deny that, right? And arm wrestling is all about lanes, right? So like Mazahir went against Ryan, and it is like impossible to top roll Mazahir that way, right? But Ryan was smart enough to find a lane, and that lane what Ryan found was side pressure lane, and that in side pressure lane, I don't think so many people in India would want to go against me.
Wow. Where can
Yeah.
people check out you arm wrestling? I know you pulled that Pro Panja in 2022, but like, do you have any of the highlights on any of your channels, or any other super matches people could check out that maybe we could put up for people to take a look? Now we could have Drew 24 possibly find them.
Yeah, yeah. So there's Pro Panja page, which has a lot of my matches. So if you type my name, all my matches of Pro Panja would appear. And I have also started with like I'm doing a bit of YouTube, and Matt has also suggested me a few things about it. But let's see how far I go with it, because naturally I'm good with camera and I'm okay with content, but I don't know how much I would post frequently. So YouTube, Instagram, just type my name. You surely will find some content, and rest. I'm thinking of doing more on my own channel so that I can present more of me to the audience and fans.
Well, guys,
Everyone is Paul. Dara is like the go-to guy for every one of the arm wrestlers. They will message Dara non-stop all day. He's like the coach of everybody. So, it'd be great to see you get more of the social media spotlight.
Yeah, and I think you would you'd catch a big fan club over in North America too if people seen you in action and kind of seen the energy that you put out. I'm telling you, bro. I was watching the Pro Panja, and there was probably like 5 guys that really stuck out to me, and you were one of them. You know what I mean? And it was just by coincidence that Matt, brought you on the channel. When he said your name, I'm like, wait, I recognize that name. And then he sent me over your profile. I'm like, that's the dude, bro. Like that's one of the 5 guys stuck out to me. So I was very excited to have you on the Buzz Show, and you definitely deserve a spotlight. And I definitely encourage everybody, first off, get over to the Pro Panja League, go subscribe to their YouTube channel, and then go type in Dara Singh, and you'll see what I mean. The dude's got the it factor for sure. So we have a question from Roy. He wants to know, Matt, can you beat Auden?
No. There's a really simple answer from my end. I don't have the thoughts that I am at that level. No, I enjoy the sport. I love getting on the table with everybody. I was being beaten by a large percentage of just the people that were at the local clubs here. I have my place, but I'm not at that elite level.
I don't know if he's so much at that elite level, bro. And I think with your height,
No.
you would stand a lot better chance against most guys. I think a shorter opponent, like myself, I think Auden would really present a real problem with, with the size of his hand and, the leveraged advantage that he would have over me. But you definitely, when I seen you're a giant. I mean, I seen you go in one of those houses over there, and you literally were like bent over and couldn't fit in there. So I mean, I think you would present, you would be able to match Auden's height and all, which, that I think is one of the big factors that a lot of the guys that went against him recently haven't been able to do. We just seen the Korean Hulk, and he had nothing for him, but then we seen him get on the after pull, and he is actually very, very strong, and was giving guys that I didn't think he would have a shot against. He was in the fight for sure, where Auden kind of made that look pretty easy, and I think that was more of a leverage, height advantage that he was exposing, and I think that's what they were kind of looking for when they were fighting these matches against these guys. Even I remember when he went against James English, I seen James beforehand. I was like, damn, bro, James is getting some serious wins. Yeah, their practices, but the guys that he was pinning, I was like, wow, dude, to be in, that short a period of time and being him, I'm like, he's definitely going to have something for Auden. And then, to see Auden expose the weakness and use the height against him, it looked pretty easy for him. So, yeah, I would love to get on the table with you, Matt, too. I want to see where we're at together, and also, maybe get out to one of these Knuckles Up events, and I would definitely love to get on after pull and kind of see where you're at as well, bro. But kind of give us an idea where do you think you are, man? Like, when you're pulling against these guys in Australia and all that, like in your own club, like where do you stack up? I think a lot of people in the chat want to know that.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I did some training with Ryan this week in the gym, and he was showing me a lot of the hand movements and rising and cupping with different handles and stuff like that, which I've never done. Because the sport is still growing in Australia, the city that I'm in, which is Adelaide, I'm sort of one of the most experienced people there. So it's hard when you're one of the most experienced and you don't know these things, and people are coming to you for, and I'm teaching what I know, but I don't know the next level. And so to find out that I have a lot of weakness in terms of, maybe being able to hold a rising position or just that center position, made a lot of sense to me as to why I'm weak through that first third. But as soon as it gets here, I can engage my bicep and the muscle that I've built in the gym over the years. As soon as that's sort of in play, now I'm in the game. But a lot of the times, maybe I've lost so much through that first third that I might have my wrist dumped, or they've got momentum on me that I can't get a stop. So to sort of figure out, okay, I didn't realize that's the reason why is that first third is so weak, is I've never really done any of those exercises to really strengthen that. So for me, it's like, oh, this has opened up a new avenue of, okay, well, maybe there's a lot more progression that I can add to my game now. But yeah, in terms of where I am, I wouldn't be ranked in Australia. I'd probably be the top 40, 50. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that are much better than I am.
And what weight do you walk around at?
220, 220, about 100 kilos.
Okay. And you know what? My guess is, you know, I kind of experienced the same thing. Is I could see that you probably had like a bodybuilding foundation before. You know, would you say that that's true?
Yeah, that's
Man
right.
is
Yeah,
jacked.
There's
He's like a
24 years in
model.
the gym.
So what I'm thinking
He's a
is,
Hollywood star.
I'm thinking that your center game, like in the middle, is the weakness, and that being the hand and the wrist. But soon as you open up a little, and now you're starting to where you get into that like bicep curl position, that's when your horsepower is kicking in. And that was the first thing that I learned over the first year and a half, 2 years, you know, in the sport. I would go and train with my team. They'd come over, we'd do a workout, and I'd beat everybody in the lifts. And then as soon as we get on the table, the smallest dude is going right through me, and it was driving me nuts, you know. And then, you know, I met with Bob Brown, and, you know, kind of like what Ryan Bowen's doing with you now, you know, he started kind of showing me where my weaknesses were, what I needed to work on. And it was definitely the hand and wrist. And once I identified the problem, me being obsessive, like, you know, kind of like what Dara was saying, you know, that's all you think about all day. And when you're not actually on the table, you're watching YouTube videos. I just started really putting all the time and effort that I was in all my other muscles into the hand and wrist. And then, you know, a couple months after that is when shit just started clicking. And now my hand wasn't opening up as easy. And, you know, guys that were beating me where I didn't think I'd ever be able to catch them, I just started pinning like pretty easily. You know, once I controlled their hand in that center position, it was like a game changer, you know. And it took me about 2 years to realize that, you know. And I think a lot of people, when they first get into sport, they don't actually really know what's going on technically. They're just, you know, whatever lane they turn up in, that's, you know, what they're going as hard as they can. And they're not really sitting back and trying to figure out the weaknesses and all. And that is something that, you know, you should look to get a mentor, I'm thinking, in the sport, somebody that could kind of like help you out and kind of show you the ways. And, you know, I think that's kind of what's happening. Would you say, you know, with Ryan Bowen, you're now getting the experience what Ryan's doing on a regular basis. You're training these exercises you never did before. And by doing that, you're also seeing where you're weak, where, you know, when it comes to doing what you like and bicep curls, you probably destroy everybody. I mean, you got some guns on you, and now you get on this little handle that looks weird, and you start doing it, and you're like, oh my God, you know. And probably, you know, that girl that you're hanging out with that is, you know, Tutu, she's probably being you in some of these things, and you're like, oh shit, there's a problem there. I need to go and start working on. But you know, do you think that's going to
So,
change the way you train now? And like, are you going to start incorporating these arm wrestling Pacific lifts into your everyday routine?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was Ryan. Ryan was in disbelief that I don't train any of those movements, because he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll do some of the cupping stuff," and he had like a rolling handle, and I'm like, "Okay, how does this work?" And he's like, "What? You've never done this?" And I'm like, "No, like, how does it work? Like, what am I doing?" And he's like, "What? You don't do any of this stuff?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "What are you telling me right now? I can't believe you don't do any of this stuff. Have you never done it?" And I'm like, "No, no one has ever shown me this stuff. Like, we don't." You know, it's not a thing. And he was almost jumping up and down, like going, "What the hell have you been doing this last 5 years?" Like, so yeah. And one of the things I found was interesting, it was just a very simple handle, and it was just rising movement like that. And it was not like 2-3 plates on the stack or something. I've gone to pull it onto the table, and my hand, I could not keep it steady. And he's like, "Okay, well, that just shows you right there. There's a big weakness there." I was like, yeah, it was all over the place. I couldn't stabilize that whatsoever.
What's crazy with that is, you know, when you start doing those handles at first, it feels so foreign and uncomfortable. And it actually, like, you're finding different parts of your hand that start burning, and you can't even hold it closed at first. And you're like, damn, bro, I'm so weak at that. But yo, you go and start doing that 2-3 times a week, you'll realize in about a month and a half time, you went from being tremendously weak to, oh my God, this is one of my favorite things to do. And now you start looking at your hand and you're like, oh my God, it's getting thicker in places that I've never even known could get thicker. And that's when you start realizing it's really not that hard. You just got to know where the weaknesses are, identify them, and then go and start building them up. And as we're talking right now, you can see I got this lacrosse ball in my hand. And this was one of the best things that one of my teammates, Luke Kent, which we all know Luke is one of the best arm wrestlers and OG in the sport. I just hold this thing all day long and I'm just squeezing it. And I'm doing different things. One for like an hour, I'm just squeezing the thumb part and I'm pushing in on that. Then I'm doing the pinky and I'm working on that. So as I'm going about my day, I'm driving or doing anything, I'm working my hand consistently all the time. And I went from my hand being the biggest weakness to I think it's one of my strengths. And whenever I grab somebody that's not an arm wrestler, the first thing they're like, oh my God, I have a small hand, but it's literally like steel, and now it's got like this 3D dome on it. It's like a ball around my thumb, and people are just very uncomfortable when they grab that. So that is definitely one of the things that I've been really focusing on. And I haven't been on the table in like 6 months, but every workout I'm working that hand and wrist, and I could just feel it's like a night and day difference. And then also just taking a break from the table that long, it's when I was doing my workouts before, I was never getting progression. I was always staying around the same weights because my tendons were always screaming. They were sore. I couldn't even really bench press much. I mean, even like the curls, it was just everything was stagnant. Well, now for the last 6 months, every single workout, I'm going up and I'm keeping a log. So I actually see it. And it's like, it might only be 5-10 pounds on each lift, but they're consistently every workout going up. And before you know it, from 6 months ago to today, I feel like an absolute animal, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I can't wait to get back on the table and test all this stuff out. And, I've also been working on different lanes, I never trained to do the hook. I've never trained to do the press. And I'm doing all those arm wrestling Pacific moves that I knew how to do, but I never really did them on a consistent basis. And I just been really, really focusing on. So, I might get on the table and be like completely, horrible, or I could get on there and be like, holy shit, I've just, figured it all out. And now I got really strong. And, I'm going to keep track of everything. I'm going to show everybody as soon as I start getting back on the table. I think in the next like month, I'm going to start posting, some of my workouts and kind of just showing what I'm doing and all that, and just to kind of keep everybody in the loop with things. But I want to know, Dara, have you figured anything out like that as well, bro? Have you identified like your weaknesses and kind of just been focusing on? And also, do you have a coach or anybody that you work with, or somebody that like kind of mentors you?
No, as of now, I don't have a coach as such, but it is the arm wrestlers who've been training from a long time. I talk to them a lot. Like even when I met Ryan, I know he's a very good coach and his analysis of arm wrestling is very good. So even I spoke to him about my style and what all I can do and how I can improve. I come from a coaching background myself. I have been an evidence based coach, and I've coached more than over 1,000 people around the world. So my scientific understanding of body is good, and I can understand stuff pretty well. And from what I have understood over the time is one thing everyone should reduce is the excessive table time what people do, and the ego based table time where they want to pin the opponent. I would want someone like Ryan to play like to practice because he likes slow pulling, and I personally feel that slow pulling is where you get to understand those techniques and where you can go and the lanes you are weak in. Because if you just go do ready goes, people who can generate more power are always good at it, and who have better timing, they're good at it, and probably you're just opening up and then getting all the pains out of it, which is not helping anyone. So no, neither the guy who's hitting is identifying his weakness or strengths, neither the guy who's being hit is getting anything out of it. Um, what I feel is table time should be more of technique work to understand where you're lacking, what technique would help you more. Over the time, I have understood that my elbow is pretty good. Though I had a very bad last 6 months because I had major elbow issues. Like I had golfers, I had tennis, everything. It was so bad that I went to a super match thinking that I'll do good, and then I realized my hand is absolutely not working. So this might be surprise for people, but if your elbow is messed up, your hand stops working. And that's when I went to the doctor in Dubai. I went with Mazahir, and
The only thing
and
I do want to, the only thing I do want to, I do, there is contradiction though, also, Dara, because, you're saying, slow pulling is where you learn your technique and all, but there is different ways to approach your table time training. And why I say that is because Travis Bajan was one of them that always pounded in my head this. He goes, when you go to these practices, they're pulling 99% of the time slow pulling. He goes, when does that ever happen in a tournament sense? He goes, they should actually be doing the ready goes, the 1% that they only do in the tournaments. That's what you should be training 99% of the
and
time on the table.
and I have something to say on it. What you can do is you can practice ready go. When ready go is practice, you just get in the position and you don't have to finish the match or hit the opponent or break his hand. For that matter, you can just go. Okay, I'm set up. I'm in my position, and I'm just so when we are training ready goes, we are simply training the response, right? Our body's response to the word go. That can be done with just getting in. I have got the position. Now I am in position. I won. I won. I had the response. You do not have to hit and force that suddenly, like basically, force is equal to mass into acceleration, right? So when you accelerate like crazy on someone's hand and he's opening out all through, he's going to take time to recover out of it. That's why people badmouth table time because people come there and start hitting everyone and then end up getting nothing out of it, just some sore hands where they can't even train for last next 2 weeks.
Yeah, no,
So
I
what you
agree.
can do?
There's definitely two different approaches with that. And then the other thing that Travis always would preach to me was ghost arm wrestling. He would have me walk up to the table like 50 times on each arm. And at the beginning, I thought it was crazy. I'm like, bro, you're wasting so much time. But all he would have you do is walk up there, get into your setup. You could do it by yourself and act like you're gonna go ready, go. And then he would walk away, walk back up and do it all the time. And I mean, it would literally take you like an hour to do that. Well, I didn't do that at first. And when I went to my first like super match, I realized why. All of a sudden they called my name and my whole mind went blank completely. I was so damn nervous. And I remember looking at my friend and I said, what arm am I pulling? I go to put the chalk on and I'm like, what arm am I pulling? Like it just went
Wow.
completely blank. And it was the worst
Crazy.
feeling I've ever felt in my life. And I remember leaving that super match and calling Travis and said, oh my God, you're 100% right. And he goes, what are you fucking stupid? He goes, I've been doing this 30 fucking years and you're telling me I know I'm doing it right. I was one of the best in the world. So I after that day, I started doing the ghost arm wrestling all the time. And it got to the point where it's like, it just naturally instinct. Like I don't even have to think anymore. I know my setup and I walk up the same way every single time. I do the same thing. And, that is something I really preach and I really believe in. But then in
Yeah.
contrary to all this, just like you said, Dara, I just had Jordan Sonoff on my channel. And, as I'm doing the interview, Jordan was actually going through a table time workout with us and showing us exactly how the Bulgarians train. And I took so much from that. And I'm like, this is genius. They break it
Wow.
down into like gym lifts where they get on there and they do like 20-second hold in a setup position and they just go hard as they can, but they're not moving. They're maybe like 1 inch. That's it. And then they make it into like reps. And then he takes a break and he'll break for 3, 4, 5 minutes. And then they go do it again. And I'm like, yo, this is genius. This is like working out in a gym, but you're hitting all the different angles on the table and you're not destroying your tendons. You know what I mean? You're giving them a nice workout, and that's how they're getting on 3, 4 times a week in doing this. So there is definitely different ways to approach it and different things that you could do, and it's just a matter of what feel like works for you, and you got to figure out where your
Yes.
sweet spot is. So I definitely encourage guys, find somebody that you got a similar style to, somebody that you like, listening to, and kind of try finding their system, but you got to kind of follow it all the way. I saw Drew posted up earlier. He said, go to the voice of arm wrestling, go to Todzilla, go to Devin, but you can't do all of them. You kind of got to focus on one at each time. And then it's like, if Todzilla is doing, his all his workout, you got to do it consistently. That's the key. If you find one of these systems, you got to keep doing it. Go 3-4 months of 3-4 times a week doing those exact workouts. That's when you're going to see the benefit, because I've also seen guys where they burn themselves out and they're doing 2 of Devin's exercises, they're doing 1 or 2 of Todzilla's, they're listening to voice of arm wrestling. Before you know it, you have no idea what's working, what's not. Your head is spinning. You have no like set program that, you know what I mean? So I think what I keep getting back to is, I like to find a mentor, or a coach, somebody that kind of, could direct you and stick with that one person, give them their time, and I kind of did that at the beginning. I did that with Engen, even though it wasn't in person, it was, more over the phone. So, probably wasn't as good. Then I went to Travis and I started, doing Travis's. And when you get to know Travis is one of those where he goes, you find your strength and you just master it. He has only 5 exercises he does. 1 exercise per day. That's it. But that 1 exercise, he'll hit for 8 hours. You know what I mean? Not everybody can do that.
He
But
does.
yeah, it's low intensity. So if you know Travis's life, Travis is in the gym training his kids all the time. So he's hanging out in the gym. Now, when he goes, he's never sweating. He's never going 90, 100% intensity. It's more of like a 40, 50% intensity, but it's over an 8-hour period of time. So he'll go in, he'll do his side pressure machine. He'll get on that. He'll hold it for like 2-3 minutes, and then he breaks for a half an hour, and then he'll go back. And he's only doing that 1 exercise all day long. And he breaks up all those 5 exercises over a 5-day span. And that's Travis's way of getting to where he's at. I've also watched Jerry Catterett. Jerry Catterett only does maybe 4 exercises, but he does those every workout he does. He'll only train 2-3 times a week. But from that dude has got so tremendously strong in those exercises. And it's like you get in his track, bro, it's like a Mack truck hitting you, because he's just so goddamn strong in those. So it's like, find that one person, I think, and follow their program religiously, give it all you can, and you could constantly build on that, and build from their strengths. And also, I think that might be a good way to approach it. When I found Bob Brown, that is kind of like what happened. Bob Brown kind of just, he's seen where my strengths were, he's seen where my weaknesses, kind of zeroed in on my weaknesses, and we just started really working those, and that kind of started making things click for me, at least get better on the table and all.
Paul, when you mentioned that your hand used to be very weak, and now it has become your strength. So, what are the exercises, or what are the special angles, or whatever you can talk about, the way you spoke about that ball? What are the things that has helped you the most to
So
get on track with it?
the arm wrestling handles, I had every handle in the book. I literally, my gym has got
Mm,
probably like 100 different handles, but I would never
mm,
use them consistently. So what I have did
man.
different is I pick 5 of them, and I just,
Uh,
those are the 5 that are in my program for the next 3 months, and I just go hard as I can, as much as I can on those. And then,
mm,
after that 3-month period, then I switch to another 5. So rather than
mm,
just doing quantity, because you start doing too much shit, and then you're never really getting the progress. So just sticking with
mm,
those set 5, I've seen such a change, and just the development of my hand visually. You just look at it, and it's like I got veins popping out where I didn't think they could be popping out. And then I remember one of my super matches when I went against this kid Dan the Nightmare. We actually had him on the other night, and he's a small dude. He doesn't look opposing at all. But the one thing I noticed is he had this 3D dome around his thumb. So I started investigating. I'm like, yo, bro, where did you get that? And he told me he was a massage therapist, and every day he's really kneading with that thumb and, the pointer finger. So, what is so funny, bro, is I started going home to my girl and I'm like, yo, I'm going to massage you 20 minutes a night before we go to sleep. She fucking loved it. But I literally did that for a couple months straight of building up. And I remember going to the next time, it was about like 4 or 5 months later, after he destroyed me in a super match, I went to a practice over there. Well, it was a whole different outcome. I dominated him totally. Now my hand could deal with his hand, and it was like a whole nother ball game. And I was like, holy shit, this is really working. So that's been like my main focus. And I've always had a strong wrist. I used to be a bowler that used to bowl with a 16-pound ball since I was like 8 years old. And I was bowling like probably like 100 games a week for many, many years. So my wrist was always strong. But your wrist could be so strong, your hand opens up, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, and as I'm watching TV, here's another example. I have my my bucket of rice, and I got this spinner thing this company makes out in Texas. I can't remember their name right now. I wish I could shout them out. But I sit there and I'm watching a movie with my girl, and I'm just spinning this thing non-stop, and then, like I said, this lacrosse ball, this was a game changer, man. Like I just really, if anybody, get yourself a lacrosse ball. This thing is amazing, and just squeeze on it all day long as you're doing things. It really, it really shows the benefits on the table for sure. So,
Paul, do you see this, like doing like thousands of reps all day, interfering with your actual like the strength training which you do for 5 exercises you spoke about? So, do you see these reps or kind of this interfering with your actual workouts?
yes, it definitely does. So the key is your programming. You got to space things out, and you got to know what works for you. So if I do something and now my hand, like my thumb pad, it'll get this like burning sensation on other lifts I do. So now it's all about programming it the right way so that I could get the maximum out of all my workouts. So like I said, I do my 5 days of bodybuilding training during the week and all. I throw 1 day in of where I throw the arm wrestling tools involved, but then that weekend, so I'm actually training 7 days now that I'm saying that. Saturday and Sunday is my arm wrestling Pacific days, where I go down into my gym, I turn on either the football game or baseball games, and I kind of just hang out there all day. I'll be there for 7-8 hours, nothing too intense, but I'm doing my sets. I go and take a 5-10 minute break. Maybe I'm texting with somebody or whatever. Now I go do another set like that. And that has been working for me, so it's like whatever works for you, but like I said, I train that Saturday and Sunday. Now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I really can't do anything as far as arm wrestling train Pacific. So now I do my back workouts for, bodybuilding. I do my chest. I hit my legs. It's like you kind of got to go with your body, what you're feeling and all that, because you overtrain something, you're also risking injury. And that's something, you were saying earlier, you had your shoulder issues and all that. That happens a lot when we first get into the sport, because we want to become the best arm wrestler in the world. And, we start overtraining. We're on the table way too much. And, now you're breaking everything down, and then next you're susceptible to possible injury. And which I learned when I first came in, I had to have 2 surgeries, my bicep tendons and all. So, I'm one of those guys that's, as soon as my body's telling me that, I'm sore and I'm hurting, I'm the first one to just say, it's better to take a day off and, come back stronger the next day.
Nice.
Absolutely.
See, I'm
Yeah, for sure.
inspired by you. I've started
Look at
doing
it. There
it.
you go, bro. He's got his ball already, dude. I could tell, Dara,
Yeah,
you got the
I'm going to
obsessive
turn
ball.
into Paul Italia to go. Am I matching your swagger now? Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. There you
Paul,
go. You got to get the
is it
cigar and
working?
The cigar,
My hand
yeah.
is getting stronger now. Yeah.
You need the
Let's see that.
sunglasses and the cigar.
Let's see that forearm, guys. What are we working with? Oh, there you go. There you go. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love it. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's the gun show, bro. That's the gun show right there. But now you got to get that wrist and that hand caught up, man. That's the key right there, is get that wrist and hand. That's the next project for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
the main weakness I have had, because and especially out of my after my elbow injury, I have had a major I mean, I had major problems with my wrist holding up in matches. So now this is something I'm working on. I'm still dealing with some tennis elbow issues, and I'll probably get some PRP done for it. But let's see how it works. But yeah, wrist and hand is something which like it is the start. It is where arm wrestling starts. And if you do not have that wrist and hand, no matter how much side pressure, back pressure you have, it won't work.
I want to tell you this, Dara, for your tennis elbow and all, something that I found that really works. People were telling me beforehand, and I kind of was just dismissing it. I was trying everything, but they do the technique with the cupping, and then you add the acupuncture with that. Those two together were the best thing. So they actually do the acupuncture first. They put the needles in and all, and then they do the cupping, and it kind of actually pulls some of the blood out. That, I'm telling you, man, when I got that done 2 weeks later, all the tendonitis was gone. And people were telling
Wow.
me this for months, and I wasn't listening. I was like, oh, I'm doing the cupping every night. I got my cup set at home, and it alone, it wasn't healing it. But when I did that acupuncture with it, that really worked. Now, I also had to connect, with I'm sponsored by Vitacell, that's the stem cell company and all, and they have this thing
Mm,
called exosomes. And they sent me for a treatment with the exosomes. I was telling them about I had tendonitis, and I said it usually takes me a couple weeks to heal up. Well, I went and got the shot of the exosomes. Literally 1 week later, it was gone completely. It
wow.
destroys inflammation, but not everybody's going to
Wow.
be able to go and drop money on exosomes. It was just because I was sponsored, so I was willing to try it out and all. But that was another thing that definitely got rid of the tendonitis for sure. And with
Yeah.
arm wrestling, you got to just learn how to heal up. It's one of those things that is one of the big major parts of arm wrestling is figuring recovery out. And a lot of people, I feel like they don't take that seriously. You know what I mean? They'd rather just get on the table, and even if they're sore, it's kind of like an ego thing, like, oh, I'm sore, but I could handle it and get back on the table. And it's like, dude, you're putting yourself two steps back. You're going forward, and then you're just losing all your gains by doing that. So healing up is a major thing that you really got to figure out, and that's how you get the gains, and to being it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I always say that with arm wrestling for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same with
For
any
sure.
exercise. If you jump in the gym and you're doing, let's say you do a chest workout and your chest is really sore the next day, you're not going to do another chest workout. It's like
Man.
you've already broken the muscle
Only
fibers
arm wrestlers
down.
do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I'm really sore on my wrist. Let me train wrist. Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
But I want to comment to Roy. You keep saying, like, Paul versus Nanya rematch and all. I've actually I've been working on. That's part of the reason why I started changing up my lifts and what I was working on. Before I was always that high post and top roller, and 95% of the people that works on. Then I got exposed with Nanya and his press, and he was so much tighter to his arm, and I kind of just I'm wide open, and I'm setting up like this. That was the worst thing I could do. So from that, I learned what I just watching it over and over again, of seeing how open I was from the beginning. So I actually been training with a riser, and I've been going inside now, and I actually have a press game now. I haven't used it on the table, but I've been doing all the press movements and the shoulder rolls and going inside that hook. And my body is made to go in a hook. I got the short forearm, but I mean it's a monster forearm. So I think I'm going to be coming out where I'm going to more of an inside puller, not saying that I won't be top rolling at all, because it was working against most people and all. But, I think I have a lot better game plan for somebody that's going to come inside and go attack on that press right away, is I'm going to meet them in the middle, or I'm going to try getting into the press faster than them. And, having that short arm, I think that's going to work. And being on the riser, being way above my arm now I'm actually coming down with force in that, so I think that's going to work in my benefit as well. And I think it's time for me to just be able to go in every line possible.
How
And
tall are you, Paul?
5'6". I'm a short guy, so I want to be real tight to my arms. I kind of was against the riser before because I was just doing the high post and top roll and all. But now that I'm opening up the inside game, Bob Brown kept telling me, he's like, you got to get on the riser, bro. You should be hooking. The way you're built, you would be a nasty inside puller. So after losing the Nanya and kind of getting exposed where my weakness was, that's something I really been working on. And I feel like it's going to be a kind of a game changer when I get back on the table and all, which I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna document this all on my my YouTube channel. I'm gonna kind of start showing you guys my new workouts and all. I wanted to get up to some impressive weight, so I wasn't looking like a weakling when I was making these videos and all. But now I'm pretty proud of where all my numbers are on all the arm wrestling Pacific workouts and exercises. So I'm definitely going to show that, and then I'll show you guys when I first get back on the table in January. But I actually got to say this: October 25th, I got this big expo. Everybody knows I'm getting into the junk world, and it's Forget About It Junk Removal is my company. Well, I'm one of the sponsors at this big expo, and they got 300 people coming there, and they found out that I was an arm wrestler, so they kind of put out the promoter that's throwing the whole event. He put out a challenge to everybody that's going that $500 to anybody that could pin me, but you got to put up $100. So what we're gonna do is I got my big truck that I just got wrapped and everything. I'm bringing the arm wrestling table. I'm gonna put it right in front of that, and I'm gonna just video everything. And I got a bunch of guys that already contacted me that they're like, yo, we're coming to win at $500 and all. So you guys are gonna get to check me out. It'll be my first time on the table in probably 6 months or so. But I'm gonna make sure to be putting that on my other channel, and I'll probably put a couple of them on Arm Wrestling channel as well. So you guys will get to see me October 25th in action again.
I love the name. Forget About It. Every time I watch any mobster thing or any it pops up in my feed that it's like the mafia stuff, I'm always like, yeah, forget about it. And it makes me think of your company.
Yeah, I went with that whole name. It's it's an East Coast thing, and I'm kind of bringing it over to the West Coast. And as soon as they get to meet me or hear me say a couple of words, everybody thinks, oh, New York accent and all that. Forget about it. So it's just like a real catchy thing. And everybody I told, they're like, yo, that's just a genius name, and they think it's gonna take off and all. So I'll definitely be documenting that whole journey. I got to Forget About a Junk Removal channel. I just started it, and I've been doing all interviews on that, and kind of going to show my whole way of starting this business from the beginning and making it hopefully into a successful franchise that'll be nationwide, and just going to show every step of the way with that as well.
I'm amazed that you said that you're not an inside puller. Your frame and everything, the size of your bicep strength, your forearm size, I was surprised to hear you say that you just started with that inside game. I was like, it's like if you had somebody that was the perfect model for hooking, you would say, well, here you go, Paul Talia. Have a look. So yeah, that's great that you've moved in that direction.
Well, you got to remember when I first started, Travis was my guy, and Travis just kept saying to me, he said, yo, you gotta, you want to be here for the long game. And, guys that go inside, they get a lot of injuries, and it's a lot of wear and tear on your elbow. And he's like, you're better off high post in top roll. And he taught me that style from the beginning. And I mean, like I said, bro, it was working 95% of the time when I'm going to these events. I was just ripping right through them. But Nanya kind of exposed me with that when he came right in on that press. I'm wide open from the beginning. Like you could already see I'm gonna lose. He's really close to his hand and all, and I'm already starting like this. I mean, it was pretty easy lane for him to get right in, and I couldn't do nothing. I'm literally stuck an inch from the pad trying to hold on for my life with everything I had. But it was just a bad, I got to be more aggressive. And when I started going, I'm doing these training, and I actually, right before this, I was just practicing shoulder rolling a couple hundred times with the weights and everything, and I was like, yo, I'm getting really seriously strong, and the speed that I'm doing at is pretty impressive. So I look forward to seeing how it all translates to the table and all. So excited about the new lane and all.
Oh, absolutely, man. Dara, when you started, was it very natural for you to go inside, or were you like playing around with all the techniques and then you sort of found that you were more suited to hooking?
Uh, I personally feel that I was primed to be an inside puller. So my body naturally moves a certain way. So I would say anyone's body moves a certain way naturally. They have that mind muscle connection naturally. So they are very comfortable moving a certain way. And I always had that side pressure thing wherein I can just go sideways very comfortably without much issues with elbows and shoulders much. So I always had that. The issues I had started, all the issues I had in my elbow was after my hand started opening. Before that, I had no issues with my elbows. No, I can pull as much as you want with a cupped wrist and hook. Like, and I'll have no issues with my elbows and shoulders normally. But I naturally, I think even my dad has that. So when I grip him, he'll grip me tight and automatically start using side pressure. So I guess I have that in my genes.
Wow. What
Yeah.
have you practiced top rolling as well? Like, are you an all around universal puller, or inside is your main track?
No, I'm not very good with top roll, but something I'm trying to develop is a Todd roll now. Do the Todd Hutchings style, what he did to Angar Bayo and Prudnik.
Like a
Okay.
low hand side pressure thing, or
Yeah, yeah. So it is basically that's what I was discussing with Ryan, if you remember, Matt. So
oh yeah,
basically, what you do is just hold, and if someone is trying to top roll, you just turn this over and start using your side pressure now.
So
The only
you're
the
pronating the way through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ah,
What you need is a
hmm.
very strong set of fingers for that, so that you can clamp, and no matter even if your wrist opens, you're still being able to go sideways. That's what you
As
need for it.
as long as you're keeping your
Hmm.
pronation, you're good. It's when you get supinated open, that's
Yeah,
when it comes a problem. Yeah, and that's probably
yeah,
when you get supinated at
and
all, that's when your elbow starts really hurting.
yeah, and I naturally had that lock. So if I even if I'm supinated, I can still stop people here. When my tennis elbow was good, I mean I did not have had it at that time. I could just open this way and still stop people here.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that's
I think
Hmm.
that is what that is the thing what has led me to this injury over time. Like I've been overusing that angle way too much. So
Hmm.
that might have led me to injury. But yeah, that's how you learn out of your own mistakes.
I
Yeah,
agree.
exactly.
One thing I
What about
personally feel is everyone can benefit out of is getting a very strong riser and cup. Like no matter who you are, what you do, and what are your strengths, still if you get a stronger cup and riser, it is always going to help you. It is going to give you a better access. Because what usually tall people what this Devin Larratt and Auden Larratt, what they do is basically they come very high on your fingers, right? So now you end up being away from your wrist joint. The strength moves away, so it's somewhere here. Now your the point of force is from here. Now it becomes difficult and difficult. So if you have a very strong cup, and then you can keep the riser on while you have it, you have the access. You get the access, the gap, and suddenly you can chop into them. But
Yeah.
if you do not have that, it'll be very difficult to deal with it. Also, I feel the referees need to understand better that these tall guys cannot keep their elbow forward and still keep that height. It doesn't work. It is like I don't know why at times I see Devin arguing with the refs about it. That how can you possibly have a taller arm and still keep your elbow at the front of the pad? You have to move back to match the height. No matter how much you act that you are giving knuckles, it is not practically possible because the other guy is going to be somewhere here. And even if you grab his knuckle, technically you are actually higher than him.
See, that's why I came high post and top roller, because I literally start at the top part of the pad because my arm is so short. So literally my arm is right under my hand, and my riser, Roy was asking, Paul, do you practice the Devon riser lift? That was one of my strongest coming in this sport. For whatever reason, I guess from bowling, my riser was extremely, extremely strong. So, I'm starting off like this, and my riser is so hard. I mean, it was working that high post and top roll. But, like I said, if somebody could bring me inside or get into that press, that was where the weakness was at. But yes, my riser is definitely one of the strongest part of me, to begin with. And I think that's why I was successful with that high post and top roll. But just like every style, there's a way to beat it. There's a weakness that people got to figure out. And it wasn't until I went against Nanya that I realized that a press was really hard to beat. But when I was practicing with all the other guys leading up to that match, I'm talking like guys that were 300 pounds. I'm training with Bob Brown, and he's having them trying to get into the press against me, and I was just ripping them wide open. So I went into that match feeling like, oh, I had the answer. You know what I mean? But it was just, Nanya's press was that much better, at that time, which we're going to get to see. Nanya has got a big match, I think, coming up where Steve Fernandez was just talking about. He's got him going against Pete Brana, who, is a very well-known East Coast puller. He's out of New York and all. And I think that's going to be a really good match. And we'll get to see, exactly what Nanya's level is at and how Pete's going to deal with that press. So looking forward to seeing that match for sure. We got a question: is Riekerd coming back?
Yeah, I would like to. So today he only could allocate 5-10 minutes. He's working today. He did say, hey, look, when I get the opportunity, I'll jump on. He did jump on earlier, but his signal was very, very poor. He said, I'll try again when I'm in a better area. So I'm not sure what he does for a living, but it seems like he's doing a lot of driving. So maybe he just can't find a good signal. But yeah, unfortunately, he hasn't popped on.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, we're gonna see if we get him on an interview when all the schedules work out, and we'll see if we can make that happen before October 27th. Because I know a lot of people want to hear from Riekerd. This dude is like the young phenom, and everybody wants to hear from what he's got to say and all that. So we'll definitely set that up for sure.
Yeah, it's just the time schedules. Obviously in Australia, it's almost the opposite. So the 9:30 p.m. is right in the middle of the day for us in Australia. So he's obviously at work, but we'll work around it and do something outside of the normal work schedule for him.
And I just want to do a couple of plugs. We got December 7th, we got Arm Sports Entertainment. That's Tim Talmadge. He's going to be throwing the Washington State Championships. They've just hired Italia Arm Wrestling Promotions to come on board and help promote all their matches. I'm also going to be showing up in person. That's going to be starting on December 7th at Saturday, 9 a.m. They have the Aries Super 64 with Corey Miller. He's going to be throwing the tournament part, and then Arm Sport Entertainment's putting together a whole list of great super matches. They got a couple of them announced. They got Arsen Casa Ryan versus Bogdan Ska, which that's going to be a really good one. And we got Paul Talbot versus Tom Rosati left hand, which that one I'm really excited about. I know Paul Talbot is just an absolute beast with that left arm, and Tom has been making a lot of waves worldwide, and also really looking forward to that match. I know they got a bunch of others they're going to be announcing real soon, but if you're anywhere on that West Coast, definitely make the trip up there, come visit. It's going to be a great event. They got the Super 64 going, like I said, with the tournament, and then you get to go watch the big show. And Arm Sports Entertainment always puts on a great show with great super matches. Athletes from all over the world will be there, so definitely check that out. And as we get closer, I'll be holding a lot of the interviews on the channel. I think I'm also going to have a couple of them come on the Arm Wrestling Buzz show and kind of just go back and forth with each other, build the hype up. So definitely look out for that. And then one more time, I want you to go over October 27th, AWE. What's going on that day? One more time for everybody.
We got a double elimination tournament with 8 men. Riekerd Bornman is the defending champion, AWE heavyweight champion. The winner of the tournament will take the belt. Riekerd is very fired up, and he says no one is ever going to take this belt off him for his entire arm wrestling career. He said that he's going to be holding that title. We've got Brett Coots. We've got a whole bunch of other guys that are very much trying to take that title from him. Also on the same day, we've got a super match between Keziah Harrington, who is Australia's #1, and she is going against Ashleigh Hoeta from New Zealand, who is New Zealand's strongest woman and bench presses over 700 pounds, and has also done phenomenally well in the arm wrestling world, having won the East versus West qualifier, then placing second in the overall event on the left hand. So she is an absolute phenom.
And then we got every Friday night over at the 98% podcast. They got the FG, and it starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's kind of just a big community hangout. Everybody's invited. So come on, pop on every Friday night. Come say what's up. And then I just recently put out a show this last Sunday. It's called Come Hang Out with Italia. It's open for the whole community. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time. What I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to get everybody across the world. You know, it's just a great platform where we invite everybody. I shared a link in the chat. You know, it allows me to have 10 people on at a time. We use StreamYard or whatever. And we just talk anything arm wrestling or any topics in general. Like, you know, we even got into talks about Jake Paul going against Mike Tyson. We were talking about that topic and all. And it's more of like a hangout, kickback kind of atmosphere. You know, most of the things I do on my channel is usually serious interviews and, you know, shows like that. I wanted to kind of show like a more relaxed version where we could all just hang out, kick back. If you want to drink a beer and just talk, you know, arm wrestling or any other topic in life, you know, that's where we're doing it there. So definitely come check it out this Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We had Matt come on last time. Daria, I'd love to get you guys, you know, any of your Indian arm wrestlers want to come on, pop on and hang out, encouraging everybody around the world. You know, I think it's a great thing that, you know, we're like a brotherhood and sisterhood. You know, we had a bunch of ladies on there as well, which that was really cool to do. But you know, just, you know, a place that we're all of us just to kick it and talk and compare each other's cultures and arm wrestling and all. So I encourage you guys, come check it out and see what's up on Sunday night as well. Daria, is there any other platforms that you'd like people to check you out on? I know we were telling everybody earlier, if you guys just tuned in recently, get over to Pro Panja page, put in Dara Singh. You're going to get to check him out in action. Dude is a beast on a table. He also he's smiling as he's pinning everybody. He brings the energy every single time. So is there anywhere else that people could check you out, or just if they want to message you and just have a conversation?
Yeah, that's my Instagram, Dara Singh Handa. That's the name on Instagram, and that's the easiest way you can get in touch with me. And hopefully, I'll do more of YouTube now. Let's see.
Better.
we definitely got to get you more on YouTube, brother, because like I said, bro, you'll get a fan club out in North America real fast, bro. And you know, you're a great guy to talk to and all. And thank you for coming on tonight. It was a real pleasure. And to hear about all the different training you do and how it all begun was just very enlightening. So thank you again for coming on. And you always got an open invitation, brother. Anytime you want to come on, pop on. And like I said, I encourage you on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what time that is over there. Matt, do you have any idea what time I think it's like a 12-hour time difference. So it's probably like 9 a.m. over
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
So if you're ever up real bright and early on Monday morning, 7 a.m., and you want to talk arm wrestling, come pop in for a little while. We'd love to have you on there for sure.
For sure, bro. Thank you for having me, and it was a great experience. And I love discussing arm wrestling, and I'm always looking forward to discussing different concepts, training, whatever is happening around the world, these contracts and everything. I love discussing those stuff. So some other time we'll surely do that. And thank you for having me again. Thank you.
Yeah, We're definitely gonna stay connected, bro. I'm gonna message you after this, and I'm curious to talk and just kind of trade exercises and different things that we do to prepare for arm wrestling matches. I definitely want to talk more of that with you. So thank you again, brother, and
Thank you
hopefully
so much.
we'll see you soon, brother.
Yeah. Bye. Bye, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Hell yeah. And then I just wanted to say one more thing before I call it a night over here, guys. I'm going to be offering a new service. So, I originally was going to start throwing some tournaments again and get back and active with as far as throwing actual tournaments and super matches. I actually decided I'm not going to go that route. When I started looking at all the schedule of how many different events were going on and how tight it is and trying not to step on other people's toes, I was like, I think I'd be more of a benefit to this community by helping spotlight other organizations, just be a promotion company that is open to work with everybody. So what I did is I made 3 packages that I made together of different promotion kind of things that I could do to help enhance your organization and all. So I encourage you, if you're an organization, you're trying to get spotlight on your matches, I have a silver, I have a gold, and I have a platinum package. If you guys are interested in anything like that, hit me up. I could send them right over to you. I got them all typed up and everything, and figure out what would work for you and what would benefit your event the best. I've been getting a lot of people hitting me up and trying to hire me as a promotion. I'm working with Washington State Arm Sport Entertainment. I also have the M Spot. They got that reality show plus an event going on. They were hitting me up, but it was just I'm getting so booked with all these different organizations and all. But I want to just kind of have like a standard plan where you could pick what package works for you. So definitely hit me up if that's something you guys are interested in, and I could definitely go over everything with that and help out your organization really get the spotlight and all. So I encourage you guys to definitely get involved with that. And then Matt, it's always a pleasure to have you on, brother. Been a lot of fun. And if you want to get any other your athletes on, that are going to be on October 27th, you could always get them on the buzz. But like I said, if we could maybe work out another schedule, get Riekerd and maybe a couple of the other guys that we haven't showcased yet, I'd love to do that as well, brother.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And just on your promotion side of things, we can't thank you enough from AWE's point of view for getting the exposure for the North American audience has been absolutely insane. Dave Stockbridge and Ryan are both just so thankful of all of your efforts. And, I think there's so many more people that know about Australian arm wrestling or the AWE or even just that whole region of the world because of your efforts. So you've definitely spotlighted us and given us the ability to showcase our athletes and our promotion to a whole different audience. And we really appreciate everything you've done for us.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate that, brother. And just for other people, if you haven't seen, I also help out Knuckles Up. I've been really going hard with them and really spotlighting all their events and all. And now I'll be working with Arm Sports Entertainment. So that's just some examples of some people that, I've been helping out and, they've definitely seen the benefit and all. So, well, thank you for coming on today, bro. And I know it's crack of the dawn early over there for you, but, thank you for coming on again, brother. And when are you back in Australia? Isn't that's coming up soon, right?
Yeah, man, I'm here for another week. Something that is exciting, which I didn't realize, was they've got the Asian Cup tournament happening this weekend next weekend. I'll still be here for that. So I won't be here for the senior event, but the first 2 days, because I think this goes for like 5 days or something, I'll be here for the first 2 days. So I'll be able to see some of the best in the world competing at that tournament. And I was like, man, this is like 2 minutes from where I'm staying. So I was really excited when I heard that.
That's amazing, bro. And shout out to Ryan Grondin. I mean, you've been having me laugh. I've been trying to keep a straight face and all with some of your comments, bro. You had me dying laughing inside over here. But thank you guys and everybody in the chat, man. It's always a pleasure. South Florida Arm Wrestling. We got Cole Rabin, Mr. Peanut, bro. You've been just killing it with your comments, bro, and bringing so much insight to all the interviews. And he's even been checking out my other channel, Forget About It, Junk Removal, and been helping me out with a lot of the the interviews with asking questions. I really appreciate the support. I want to say shout out to Scotty, Captain Obvious, Drew 24. You've always, man, you're the best moderator I've ever had, bro. You kill it, and you spotlighting everybody and always got the link for everybody to get connected with. Aaron Castillo, I'm looking forward to seeing you. I haven't seen you in a while. See you over at Washington States. I know that's going to be an amazing time, so we'll definitely catch up there. And yeah, thank you everybody else for tuning in. I really appreciate all the comments. And if you guys haven't already, just click that thumbs up button. And for some reason, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. Oh, one more thing. Me and Matt are working together on this. We got a Facebook and an Instagram we're in the middle of making for the Arm Wrestling Buzz show. So it's just going to be for the Arm Wrestling Buzz. We're going to be sharing a lot of the clips and a lot of the content on there. Just another platform to help grow the show and all that. So definitely check that out. And I hope to see everybody in the chat on Sunday. Come in. You don't have to stay in the chat. Come on and get on StreamYard, and let's just have a great old time. So see everybody Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Have a great night, everybody.
Boom.